All right. Good morning.
Good morning, brother.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm perfect. How are you?
Yeah, doing well. How'd you go last week? Just do a quick recap for us before we get into this one.
Yeah, for UFC 310, down 4.18 units. Should have been way more because of Cyril Gane. Like, that was a gift of a decision. I
Yeah.
rewatched it again yesterday, and I could not, like, maybe the second round, like just the optics towards the end, but even then, Volkov got back up.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I should be. I'm gonna treat it as if I'm down like 14 units, but yeah, I'm only down 4 units.
Yeah. Nice. We ended up in the group. I think it was just a couple. It's like 2.09 units. So pretty good result. I mean, any green is good green, I think. Yeah, I don't know. It was a pretty good card. I enjoyed most of it. There was a few dud fights. But for the most part, I think things really went to plan. I took a couple of dog shots. Took one on Ian Gary, which I was pretty happy with in hindsight. I would play it again at the same number every day of the week. I think it was an absurd number. And the other one that we missed was Randy Brown, which I probably also would have played again at the number. I think he had an argument for winning. So plus 190 is a pretty good price to play on a split decision. But, another day that goes your way and you get both those dog shots through and you end up with a double-digit night. But not to be. But anyway, green is good green.
Yeah, that's it.
And we got the final card of the year coming up now, obviously UFC Tampa. What do you think of the card?
I think it's good. There's a lot of there's like 2 or 3 fights that I'm just not really that interested in.
Yeah,
There's a lot of live dogs, man. A lot of live dogs, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty good card to finish. All right, what do you say we get into it?
Yeah, mate.
So I've done obviously off Tapology order, but this one's a little bit different. Do you want to go off the screen we got on the left?
Yeah, I've got it in this order, it looks like.
Okay, perfect. It is only Tuesday here in Australia, so do have a little bit of tape study still to do, but I've done I've done all the fights that I'm interested in, and then you've got fights like our first one here that I have not even looked into. It'll come later in the week, if at all. Do you have anything on this fight?
Piera Rodriguez, she is that girl that she lost to Ariane Carnelossi in her last fight. She got warned off a headbutt, and then she went for another headbutt and got DQ'd. So I'm not going to even give that fighter the respect of even looking at tape.
Yeah.
I do remember that fight. And Josephine Knutson, she is undefeated, But in her last fight, she had a pretty tough one against Pilastri from memory. So
Yeah.
I don't know the odds of this fight. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go Piero Rodriguez as the underdog.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Knutson is -230 and Rodriguez is +195.
Yeah, I wouldn't pay for either.
Yeah, I think again, as I said, I haven't taped this fight, but I know, obviously know both these girls. Knutson pretty well rounded and honestly pretty skillful, but just like not big, not physical, gets outworked a little bit. Can lose, minutes because she's smaller and yeah, just get out physical. Piero Rodriguez is a bit of a fish on the ground. So I think Knutson probably has her way, but I'm not paying -230 on a girl that has no power and no real finishing instinct. So I think we can move on from that one pretty quickly.
Yeah, mate.
Lovely. All right, so let's get in. I don't think this is the order, to be quite honest, but we'll just go off it anyway. It'll just be easier. So we've got Davey Grant taking on Ramon Taveras. Price, we are sitting at Ramon Taveras is a slight favourite, -125 to -130 range. And then we've got Davey Grant +105 sort of range. So it's pretty close. Ramon Taveras, slight favourite. You can start us off with this one.
Yeah, mate. So I'll start with Davey Grant. He's been in the UFC since 2013, so that's over 11 years. He got through off the back of that Ultimate Fighter season with Ronda Rousey being one of the coaches. He's pretty game, pretty dangerous everywhere, has big power in his hands. Like he knocked out Jonathan Martinez, Luis Smolka, and he submitted Rafael Sunsao by pretty sure like
Inverted triangle.
In the last round, middle of that round.
Yeah.
He even had a win against Cheeto a few years ago, but then lost in a rematch just a few years back. At boxing range is where I feel he's most dangerous. He throws like hard 2 to 3 punch combos, mixes it up to the body and the head, and also has a leg kick heavy game. He's also shown to have good defensive grappling that has led to finishes, such as that arm triangle. Like he is really high output from the opening bell, like constantly occupying his opponents. The thing is, like for as dangerous as he is, he's way too hittable, like especially during in close exchanges. His punches are pretty wide sometimes, and he can get caught with his hands down. But like he is a hard man to finish. Like he's only lost by decision and by submission. And yeah, he's 40. He's nearly 40, coming off a loss to Daniel Marcos, where he was still pretty like durable, and he kept very busy. But I think he's towards the end of his career. Meanwhile, Ramon Taveras, he's a guy that has gone through Dana White Contender Series twice. I think twice in the one season. He got finished by a premature stoppage to Sergey City.
Yeah.
And then got a knockout like a month later against Cortavius Romeus to earn a contract. And yeah, for his UFC debut, he actually ended up rematching Sergey City. And in my opinion, I don't think he won that. What do you reckon of it?
Of the second fight?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty competitive. I thought you could have an argument either way.
Yeah. He won he definitely won round 1 and then had like a big moment early in round 2, but then late round 2 and then round 3, I think City was having his way.
He was getting work late for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, Taveras, he can fight out of both stances, fights very confidently. He keeps his hands down while like showing off like head movement against the cage, and will typically just bounce around till he sees an opportunity to land. Like he throws with good technique and has power in both hands, especially his straight rights and lefts that has put out Romeus and rocked Sergey City multiple times. But he fights as if he's in the Matrix and that he's got the most slick defense on the planet, but he is just so hittable, especially moving laterally, moving backwards, in and out of exits. Like he just like gets hit. And he's also so obvious in how he's just waiting to throw a specific counter. Like if he's looking for a pullback straight right or a check left hook, he will telegraph that. So I think the odds are pretty on point with Taveras as the slight favorite and Grant as a +110 dog. I think the fight will play out with Grant showing all of his weapons early, throwing with his usual high output, while Taveras moves around the cage looking for counter attack opportunities. I think Grant will have heaps of success clipping Tavares with his hands down, thinking he's Canelo Alvarez as he moves laterally and backwards. Like Grant will be, I think Grant will be the minute winner actually, but Tavares could take rounds with big moments. And since Grant is so hittable, him getting rocked just once or twice could be enough to take a round that like Grant was dominating for like 3 minutes. So I think value is on Grant. He will be the minute winner, I think. Grant has also never been finished, and if anything, he has the finishing upside. Like Tavares he has been KO'd twice before, and in his recent fight was hurt multiple times. So I'm gonna, with low confidence, pick Grant. I might play him if he swells up to a bigger underdog, but he is 38, and seeing how Sohei City like troubled Tavares with like high output and a variety of attacks, I also favor Grant's experience over like legitimate competition over Tavares. Like City is the only one in Tavares's record that I feel is pretty good. Like we saw like Cortavius Romeus like just a few weeks ago, like shit the bed. But yeah, I'm gonna pick Grant with low confidence. Not sure if I'll play it, but yeah.
Yeah, nice. I'm on a pretty similar page. Yeah, Davey Grant, he's just very awkward striker. Like, not necessarily bad or good technique. It's just very unconventional with his orthodox kickboxing style. Um, like just his movement and his footwork. It's just you don't really see it a lot. Just the way he moves in and out of range, and it's just very awkward and strange, really. He throws every kick with full power. Just doesn't really seem to care about getting checked. He will switch to southpaw, but really only to kind of change the range of hitting you. He loves his like switch stance entries, so he'll start orthodox and then change to southpaw as he moves forward and look to explode into range and kind of catch you at a shorter range than you think he is. He has a big range of weird kicks on the outside. Like he'll use the jumping teeps up the middle, spinning back kicks, karate style side kicks. They're not super damaging, but they land. They fill space nicely. They make him look really active. He's able to hold his output and pace through 15 minutes pretty well. I don't think he really has amazing striking defense, particularly to boxing combinations. And I do think he wears damage pretty pretty poorly. But he's extremely durable and he's tough to finish. He really only lost that Marcos fight because of optics. I think like volume and most of that fight were in his favor, but he obviously was very bloody in the face and wasn't visually a good look for the judges. And competition level by far is in his favor. It's not even remotely close. Onto Tavares. I got a pretty low overall opinion of this guy. We were able to, I think we cashed on City the first time in Dana White Contender Series, and then we picked Tavares to win in round one against Romeus. I think that was about plus 900. Nice. And then we didn't play the rematch, luckily, because that was a pretty gross fight. But I think I've got like a pretty good read overall on this guy. What I like about him, he has really fast hands. He hits the targets well in boxing range. He throws with good speed. He throws in combination well, and he clearly just has a bit of power. He seems to hurt a lot of his opponents, whether it's a win or a loss. He fights out of southpaw, and I definitely think his rear hand cross is his best shot. He throws it with great accuracy down the pipe, and if he hits you, he can definitely hurt you. What I don't like about him, I think he's short, he's small, he's not very physical for the division. I question his durability and just his ability to take a shot at times. I also don't think he defends against kicks very well. So I think he will probably struggle with genuine defense of Davey's weird kicking output, especially if it's pretty volume heavy. And I think he's going to rely on sort of timing Davey's entries with a big right hand. I think that's going to be his main defense to kicks, is sort of try and knock him out as he does kick. Overall, I think output stats are pretty close. Slight edge to Davey. I think if it stays at kicking range, it should be to his advantage. I think Davey has faced the far better competition. It's not even close. And I think he can hold his pace and mix it up better through 15 minutes. I also think Ramon is the more dangerous puncher and could land big on Davey, given Davey is pretty hittable in the pocket. But I think Davey has a durability edge. So if it turns into a dogfight, I do think either guy could potentially finish the other, but I side with Davey. I like the violence play here. I think Davey has a big submission grappling upside. If it does get to the ground, I think he could hurt him bad with kicks. and potentially a big shot on the feet. Also, I think Tavares is probably TKO bust in this spot. So yeah, I side with Davey slightly, and we'll probably be looking at a violence play in this one.
I like it. Yeah, I might jump in on that violence play for sure.
Yeah, I just don't really think. I don't think Tavares is durable. Like I've seen him hurt in almost every fight. I think he's got a sus chin, to be honest.
Yeah, and like Davey, he's still like pretty good.
Yeah, he's fine. He's
Yeah.
arguably could have won that Marcos fight in his last one.
Yeah,
In London, I saw a lot of people calling that a robbery. I don't know if it was a
yeah,
robbery. I thought it was pretty close.
yeah. It was just Marcos, and we'll get to Marcos later. He just like didn't really like he's just only just separating himself.
Yeah, 100%. And he's fought Yanez, who's like a good boxer as well. And he had an argument to win that fight too. I know he lost that by split.
Yeah, yeah. I actually like scored that for him. We'll get to
Yeah.
Yanez a bit later too.
Yeah. There's a few mixing matches on this one.
Yeah, a few good overlaps that like helped with the tape study.
Yeah, 100%. I'd like to get like if I could get plus 120 on Grant, I'd be pretty happy and I'd play that.
Same.
But I don't know if there's enough of an edge at plus. It says plus 105. It probably looks like it might be slightly shortening. If it's a pick 'em, I'm probably not overly interested, but maybe.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, let's move up the card. Oh god. Okay, we have Miranda Maverick taking on Jamie Lynn Horth. Price-wise, we have Miranda Maverick sitting at minus 450, and then we got Jamie Lynn Horth who's sitting at plus 350. I'll go first on this one. I'll give you my whole breakdown very, very quickly. I've got zero interest here. Maverick is a tiny bit better everywhere, but going to be at a big physicality disadvantage, and she struggled there previously. She's also just a dreadful favourite to back. They always give her big price tags, and very rarely does she justify them. Would never pay anything minus over 200 for her, to be quite honest. I got no interest in this one whatsoever.
Yep, I'm going to back you on that. I really don't have much interest in this fight. I just know that Miranda Maverick, I had money on her against Jasmine Jasudavicius. I'm pretty sure you had Jasudavicius.
I had Jazz,
right?
yeah.
But yeah, she was winning the striking exchanges slightly, but she was winning them. And right before the third round, and I'm going to bring up a quote, the coach was yelling this at her face. You are winning the striking. Do not grapple. Are we grappling? No. Do you understand me? No, you're not grappling. So, and he even made Maverick repeat that to him back, and she shot for a takedown in that third round. So I don't trust her IQ and in-fight decisions. Like from what I've seen of her last few performances, she's getting better. But I just can't, like, as a favorite of like that size, I can't trust Miranda Maverick. And Jamie Lynn Horth in her last fight, I think she should have lost that one. That was to Petrovic. Petrovic had like 7 or 8 minutes of control over her, and like throughout like 2 and 3 rounds, took her down twice, and then Jamie Lynn Horth took Petrovic down twice as well, but then got reversed out of both those positions, and judges in Edmonton still gave it to Jamie Lynn Horth. So yeah, no interest in this fight.
Yeah, I agree. Physicality in women's MMA is sort of like, what would you say? Like probably like 80% of the battle most of the time. And Maverick is just not physical at all. Like she's pretty skillful everywhere, but she's not a great separator, and she's just finds herself at a physical disadvantage. So I got no interest paying her at this price tag. Yeah,
and one fighter that Jamie Lynn Horth did fight that's like much smaller than Maverick, but similar is Veronica Hardy. And I think if anyone was to look at how this fight might play out, like that, it could play out something similar like that, but more grapple heavy on the Maverick side. But yeah, if you actually have interest in this fight, then good on you. That's all I can say.
Each to their own. This is a much better fight.
Yep.
Much more interesting one. So we've got Miles Chapo Johns taking on Felipe Lima. Prices, we are looking at I don't seem to have a proper price. I'm just going to refresh quickly.
I think this was made last minute.
Yeah, so it looks like Miles Johns is sitting at plus 210, and we've got Felipe Lima as a pretty good sized favourite, minus 250. You can lead us on this one.
Yeah, mate. So Miles Johns, he was originally meant to fight Cody Garbrandt a few weeks ago, a fight where Miles Johns was the favorite coming in, and I was totally going to fade him. And here he is the underdog. So I faded Miles Johns in his last two fights, and while he has technically proved me wrong by getting victories, I think I was more wrong about the opponents than I am of him. But I'll give props. He did well. Like against Cody Gibson, I underestimated Miles Johns' ability to out grapple him throughout 3 rounds and maintain a high work rate. But I think this was me. This is due to me over maybe thinking Gibson was like way better than he was, because I think Gibson overperforming against Brad Katona and Ray Borg in those like losses and like winning those fights in tough swayed me his direction. But I still think Miles Johns lost steam in the 3rd round, but like Gibson in that fight was very weird. And against Douglas Silva de Andrade, I played Silva de Andrade round 3 prop, like only for like a quarter unit or half unit. I thought Miles was probably going to win that fight, but I expected Miles to gas out very quickly. So I thought it'd be worth a small play, but he approached the fight a lot differently due to de Andrade's power. He was patient early, getting out of the way of strikes, timing counters, but he didn't exert much energy. And when he figured out de Andrade was just stationary with his hands down, every time like de Andrade would unload or try to counter, Johns just attacked more, but still didn't push like a hard pace on him. I don't rate Miles's game, especially his stand-up. Like other than a soft jab, he throws no straight shots. Like when he counters, he just stands his ground and like swings hooks. And when he's attacking, he'll just throw like a double jab to get into range and swings like overhands like wildly. And he is very open to being countered. And while he has like solid wrestling, like I think he doesn't have the gas tank to support an all-out grapple heavy game plan. And Felipe Lima, who's 26 years old, like I'm pretty high on him. He is a champion in 3 different organizations: Octagon, Fight Club Rush, which is Swedish, and Amazon Talent, which is Brazilian. So he's had like a fair bit of competition around the globe. He comes from a great team where he's been in a training room with the likes of Hamzat and Alex Gustafsson. For his debut, he had quite the hard task of moving up in weight against Muhammad Naimov, who himself is a big like featherweight. While coming into the fight, I already thought Lima was a way better fighter than Muhammad Naimov in like every aspect of the game. I thought the size and physicality would just be too much, and he would have best give a valiant effort losing by decision. But he stayed the course, outstruck Naimov, outclassed him in his striking with his speed and technique, and showed great defensive grappling and had an active guard. It may have been 1-1 going to the 3rd, most likely 2-0 for Naimov, as this fight was in Saudi Arabia. In the 3rd round, he managed to get a back take after Naimov attempted a takedown against the fence and reversed it and locked in that rear naked choke like almost immediately. Just shows how much resolve that Lima has. And I do want to talk about his last fight before his UFC debut, which was a 5-round war against Jonas Masgard to win the Octagon title. Like he showed in that fight that he was the full package: great scrambles, effective grappling. He was technical and aggressive in the feet, and he had 5-round cardio where he maintained a pretty high work rate. Like it is a great sign to me that he's already fought a fight, like a really tough 5-round championship fight, where his opponent actually was pretty good and gave him trouble. Like this gives me confidence in how he would fare in 3-rounders at UFC level. So for me, this is a easy fight for me to break down. I know it sounds like I'm a Miles Johns hater. I'm not. I like his team. I'm pretty high on his coach, Trey Ogden, but I think Felipe Lima is too well-rounded and has every one of Miles Johns' abilities covered. Like on the feet, Lima's superior in every single way. And he just dealt with a big featherweight who was like heavier, stronger, got more weapons than Miles Johns. And unlike some of Miles Johns' past opponents who were lesser grapplers, Lima can stifle grappling attacks and can get takedowns and control time of his own. Like Lima has proven 5-round cardio at high pace. And if you throw Miles Johns in a fast-paced fight from the get-go, he is fading before the 2nd round even starts. So Felipe Lima is my pick. I think he can get it done by sub in round 2 or 3. Like if they start fast, then Miles could probably gas faster, but I might have a small play on Lima by sub in the 2nd or 3rd.
Great breakdown, man. I touched on quite a few points that you touched on as well, which always is good to know because as we say every week, we don't really talk about fights before we get on here. So when we come on and we have the same touch points, it definitely helps the confidence. That's for sure. So yeah, I'll start with Felipe Lima. He's got a very compact shell on the feet. He has a good defensive guard, which revolves around subtle footwork in and out of range. Very high boxing guard and just good head movement in the pocket. He's actually very handy at avoiding the initial attack from his opponent. And if he doesn't, he generally covers up well enough and is able to counter effectively in close. I just think he has a very efficient style. Like he just looks intelligent to me. He doesn't overextend on a lot of shots. He throws good volume. He lands with good accuracy. He just is very efficient. He has a decent leg kick. I don't think he's particularly great at checking him though. So Johns could have success with that here. He is very well rounded. I don't think he's like a crazy dangerous wrestler, but he is very effective here and can mixes things in together very well. I like it, just in terms of MMA level. I just think he has solid overall wrestling and grappling for MMA, while not being like particularly brilliant technically from a wrestling perspective. As you said, his opponent in his last octagon fight before the UFC did have a fair amount of success forcing reversals, or even Lima would make small errors in scrambles and end up in bottom. I think he's fine here, but I do think he's a little green still, and someone could take advantage of that soon, potentially. I don't think Johns is that guy. He does have 5-round experiences, which is a big tick. Level of competition is fine for someone who's just entered the UFC. And he holds his pace well and doesn't really slow down. I like him. He's clearly improving, and he's a young, natural athlete. Now on to Miles Johns. He's got a very heavy lower half, very heavy set boxer, wrestler style. Fights out of orthodox. Very single strike oriented on the feet. Generally a big looping shot that's all power. It's extremely telegraphed. But he does have good power if he can land. He's low volume at the best of times. Tends to slow down when rounds play out, particularly if there's a lot of grappling, wrestling mixed in. Level of competition and UFC experience, not even close. Johns has a pretty big edge here. I actually think he's like a relatively decent anti-wrestler. Like against the cage, he's pretty strong. He's got a strong base. He has an 85% takedown defense, and he's actually fought some okay MMA wrestlers. But I do think it slows him down significantly in terms of output, even more than normal. So, like, regardless if you get the takedown or not, it's an effective tool to use against him because he will slow down. This one's a featherweight, right?
This is in bantamweight.
This one's a bantamweight?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sweet. Well, obviously, both guys' weight classes, so I think that benefits Lima.
Since this is a last-minute fight, it might be featherweight. Like, I'm not...
Yeah, I've got it. I'll just quickly open it up. I've got it written down as featherweight in my notes, but I could be wrong.
They're both bantamweights, but...
Yeah, let me just open it. About page. Latest... No, I can't. I'm missing it. That's all right. If anyone knows in the chat, let us know. It's not a huge point anyway. It doesn't really affect the fight for me. Yeah. Overall, I think Johns is okay. Like he's fine, but he's just slow. He's compact. He's low volume. I think Felipe's far faster. He's slicker defensively, and he's got more output. Not sure if he's going to have wrestling success in this fight. I think it's probably pretty competitive, but slight scramble edge and work rate to Felipe. I think it's a good test for Felipe to prove his level of where he's at. But he's clearly improving fight to fight. He gets a decent style matchup, and he deserves favoritism in this one.
Yeah.
I don't know. Minus 250 feels fine. Like it's not a horrific price. I just don't know if he was going to. I don't know if he'll be able to get the fight to the ground. Is my only thing. Miles, I'm pretty content with Miles Johns' takedown defense, but if it stays on the feet, I favour Felipe regardless. So I think he wins. Sort of, he could win KO, could win sub, could win decision. I think he's got more paths to victory, and he's just more active. So yeah, I'm on the Felipe side for sure.
Yeah. Would you say he's a good parlay piece?
Yeah, I potentially would parlay him. My only concern is obviously it's a step up in competition, but he's going to get that as he's a UFC, had one fight in the UFC. So
Yeah, it's a step up, but also like I think Naimov was a pretty good test.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty hard entry fight to the UFC.
Yeah, like Naimov, he could be a lightweight.
Yeah, I think Naimov is he for sure he's big. I think he's kind of a flake though.
He's a
I think John's. Yeah, I don't know. I just favour Felipe in this one. I think he's the side.
for sure. I agree with that.
All right, let's keep
All
moving
right.
up the card.
I'm gonna shout out our boy PP Football for the cash this morning.
Yeah, just cashed a nice one in the group on football in the background.
Yep.
Well done, brother. That's two nice bets get through. Wolverhampton.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure at halftime it was 0-0, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the game might still be going, but it's 2-1.
Yeah, got both bets out. So well done, mate. We'll do a plug at the end. And moving up the card, we've got Sean Woodson, who's taking on Fernando Padilla. Prices are minus 165 for Sean Woodson, slight favourite. And then we've got Padilla at plus 144. So it looks like this one opened pretty crazy. It looks like Woodson might have opened minus 260 and he's slowly coming in.
Yeah.
I might start this one off.
Go for it, bro.
Righto. All right, so let's start with Sean Woodson. He just has one of the more bizarre builds that you're ever going to see, not only in the UFC, but just in the history of mankind, really. I mean, look at the photo. He's 3/4 legs and torso. It's just bizarre.
He's got a big head. Like
massive head. He's like an alien.
Yeah.
It's very, very strange. Very, very strange. He's a switch stance fighter. I think his offense is fine. He attacks from like a range of really bizarre angles, but has a pretty effective leg kick from both stances. Decent boxing, but not amazing. I think if he had like a functional jab, he would be really tricky to beat, but he doesn't. I don't think he fights long particularly well, and he allows his opponents to close distance a little too easy for my liking for a guy with like an insane frame and range that he has at lightweight. He likes to showboat, has a very relaxed boxing guard. He's always doing this fucking dumb shit where he's like moving his hands around. He relies on head movement and little sort of slips of his head as his main defense. But he doesn't have like an amazing chin. So I think this is definitely a weak point for him. I just think he's terrible at maintaining his distance. He's doesn't have a heap of urgency, both offensively and defensively, when he has his back against the cage. I think he's pretty live to get chinned here, in my opinion. He just moves back and he's got that tall man defense, and it just looks very vulnerable to me. I don't think his hand speed is great over 15 minutes. I do think he tends to slow down across the board. But yeah, there's no denying that he, like he's effective at what he does. I just think what he does isn't great, and it doesn't have great longevity in this sport. But you could probably say the same for Padilla. He likes to fight with a, stalking forward pressure, fights out of orthodox. He has kind of a similarly very long and lanky build. He likes to try and fight long, uses all 8 weapons. Has a very nice teep that he throws really regularly. I do like the way he throws it, and I think that's a good tool to keep the fight in the range that you want it. Anytime a guy tries to come in, you're just stabbing him in the stomach and getting him back at range. I think he throws with a lot more speed and intent than Woodson. I think he also has more power, but he does have legitimately horrific defensive tendencies. He backs up way too central. He doesn't move his head, and particularly against the cage, his chin is just way too high. I think someone's going to chin him bad at some point. I don't know if it's here, but I think someone will get him bad. He's slightly better defensively when he moves forward. He has okay outside head slips, which he uses to look to counter in the pocket too. Very dangerous here. He also personifies the lanky game by having a really solid front headlock series of chokes. If he rocks you, he will look for the opening there to sort of sink in the long, skinny arms under the neck with guillotines, darts, anacondas, etc. If he does get you hurt, he's a very solid finisher because he doesn't take a backward step. He just absolutely swarms you with no regard for his own safety. I think he struggled against the fundamentals of Kyle Nelson, who had just a very good leg kick and a solid jab. And while he still had success in that fight, he was able to get a lot of damage off on Nelson, but just struggled with the basic fundamentals. Honestly, this fight is a bit of a confusing one to settle on for me because I kind of am not particularly high on either guy. But my final opinion sort of just came down to this. I think whoever moves forward in this fight should win it. If Woodson lets Padilla go forward, I think he's live to clip and damage Woodson bad or potentially hit a club and sub. But I think if Padilla starts taking backward steps, I also think Woodson could be able to land no drama on him as well. So I think price for both could potentially be fair, as I think they both have enough strengths and weaknesses that complement each other to have success. But I'm pretty interested in the unders here, just given it's a Padilla fight. So whether he wins or loses, it's generally pretty violent. He only knows one way to fight, and I think to get, I'll just get a price for it quickly. Under 2.5 at plus 190. I know Woodson's not a huge finisher, but he can finish, and I think Padilla is a proven finisher. So that's the angle that I'm pretty interested in. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that unders play. And did you say Padilla was a slight underdog?
Yeah, he's plus 145.
Plus 145, but he used to be like a bigger underdog, right?
Yeah, he opened at plus 220.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I think you covered a lot of points that I was going to make. Like Sean Woodson, he is a huge featherweight at 6'2", enjoyed a significant height and reach advantage, and like he does show good defense, but these are against like smaller guys, like against guys that like sort of can almost match like the reach and like and like take away the distance game. Like he does like tend to have like a bit of like that tall man defense like tendencies. Yeah, Woodson, he has a very unique feint game. Like you said, his hands go all over the place, and he just looks and moves like so weirdly, man. Like,
yeah,
like on top of his like really like bizarre appearance, like surely that's a part of the game where like he's walking towards them, he's like feinting, he's doing like weird faces, and it's like off-putting to the opponents, or like just keeping them occupied. Like I do think the constant feinting and weird movement serves well to occupy like the opponents to the point where they're forced to fight at whatever pace Woodson like wants the fight to be at, and it's not even like a really like tough pace. He's just slowly like plodding forward, but it's not like he's applying that much pressure. Like I think in this matchup for him, like defense will be key to winning this, and yeah, I think he does show like decent defensive tendencies. Like his hands are where they need to be. He moves his head decently. He incorporates that Philly shell effectively, but Padilla could prove to like penetrate that defense because of his reach and because of the style of attack he brings. The thing with Woodson, he lacks finishing ability. Like he's only finished one fight in the UFC from his 6 wins, and it's always nerve-wracking. Like if you have a bet on Woodson, like he doesn't do much to separate himself. If it's close, like against like game opponents like Charles Jourdain and Zalal, like he went to split decision with both of them, and like he is winning these rounds, but I feel like little moments from his opponents could snatch it away. And his opponent this weekend, Padilla, like is someone who he only has the slightest height and reach advantage against, and like he may not abide by the pace and range that Woodson sets. So Padilla being 5 years younger, and he actually, where Woodson lacks in finishing ability, Padilla is the exact opposite. Like Woodson, Padilla like stays long, works behind sharp jabs and kicks, but where Woodson limits himself to boxing attacks and counters, Padilla has way more variety, as he is a Muay Thai styled fighter who uses his length. He has a nice front kick that disrupts opponents' attacks coming in. He has good check hooks as he moves laterally, and mostly against shorter opponents, he throws like elbows and step-in knees from boxing range as he counters. Like he is comfortable boxing in the pocket. In the clinch, he uses short elbows and knees well, and he is crafty when he gets a hold of you, as he has like 9 subs, which includes a standing dust, 3 triangles, and 3 arm bars. Padilla also has more output, more weapons than Woodson, but I feel he can allow for more openings, like especially for fighters who are very within themselves. Like we can look back at the Carl Nelson fight. Like after a successful first round where Padilla pressed forward, landed more effective shots while Nelson was just reduced to just backing up in his shell, Nelson actually started taking over the fight as he kept it simple, covered up, and would block and counter with punches landing flush on Padilla, who just didn't move out of the way after he attacked. and he stayed upright in his posture as well. Like when Nelson found his range and gained confidence in attack, Padilla was just getting hit way too often. Like simple combos as well, like 1-2s, left hooks, right hooks, and Nelson's like pretty slow. Like defensively, Nelson, he only had a tight raised guard and moved backwards, and he won the fight. And offensively, he had just simple combos and won. Like I believe Nelson probably has maybe half or like a quarter of the capabilities of Woodson, like striking wise. So I think this matchup will play out interesting as Woodson's style of attack is limited to either straight boxing and kicking from distance, but he is a substantial amount more effective defensively. Meanwhile, Padilla will come forward throwing a range of Muay Thai style attacks with higher volume, actively engages in the clinch, and could look to initiate grappling, but he has way more openings, like, especially for a fighter with as good counters in the pockets as Woodson. Like finishing upside, I'd say it's all in Padilla's favor. And while Woodson hasn't been KO'd, he was dangerously close against Luis Saldana, but his lone loss, which was to Julian Erosa, was by a dart stroke. So that's something that Padilla could even attack as well. As for who I think wins this fight, I did bounce back and forth, but I might have to lean Woodson. Like I'd be completely sweaty like if I backed him, as he doesn't do too much to separate himself. And I know Padilla will continue to march forward, even if he's getting outclassed. If you were to play Woodson straight decision prop, I think that'd be better than like his money line. Padilla has 5 losses, all by decision, and he has only won 2 by decision in his career. Like his first fight, which was against someone not that good, and he got a split decision in 2021. But if you are playing Padilla, just like how I'd play Woodson straight decision, I'd just play Padilla straight in the distance, maybe even sub if it's like a juice number. Like I think Carl Nelson showed us that being simple can be enough to beat Padilla as long as you're defensively on point and you fire back sharp counters. So yeah, my pick will be Woodson with very low confidence.
Yep. Yeah, I'm on the same page. It's kind of hard to be confident about either of these guys. I just don't know if Woodson has enough to like punish Padilla when he enters range, because Woodson's like so comfortable just doing this dumb fucking boxing shit where he's always going like this. But if Padilla just marches forward and fucking blasts into his range, he's so like he doesn't even put anything out centrally. So I literally think Padilla could march him down and be potentially fine. I was just having a look at some props. Padilla by sub was plus 800. I think that's pretty crazy because Woodson seems like a fish off his back.
Yeah.
And Padilla's pretty... I don't think he's like a legit jiu-jitsu guy, but he's got some opportunistic subs that if he potentially hurts Woodson, he could snap up. Or he could, jump the back, or like a range of things that he could have success with there. If you want scorecard, you can get scorecards, no action. So that's like a finish-only prop. Fernando Padilla's, it's even money for that one. And there'd also be a decision-only prop that you could look at Sean Woodson for. But, yeah, I'm not like – I think it'd be a relatively fun fight just given how Padilla fights, but not one that I'd be hugely confident in laying money on overall, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to put any money in this fight.
Yeah, nice. All right, next fight up the card, we have another good one. Maybe I'm just saying that because my boy – Joel Alvarez. We've got Joel Alvarez taking on Jakar Close. Prices. Joel Alvarez sitting at minus 350 and Jakar Close plus 285. I think, I started the last one, so you can start this one.
Yeah, I can start this. So I'll start with Jakar Close. He has been in the UFC since 2017. In the promotion, he's 9 wins and 2 losses. And even though that's a significant amount of fights, I still just don't know how good this guy is. Like, he's got good boxing, good wrestling, good control against the fence, but I just don't feel like he's great anywhere. Like, he gets by being well-rounded. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing at all, but he has shown to be hittable and prone to finding himself in bad situations and positions. Like, his last fight, he was dominating, maybe not dominating, but he was beating Joaquin Silva throughout the first round and second round. And then in the third, found himself in a tight guillotine, and he tried slamming him to the ground and ended up in a mounted guillotine position. But he was lucky to escape that. And not long after that, he got dropped exiting a clinch, like with his hands down, and nearly finished by strikes. And on top of that, we all remember like what he did against Beneil Dariush that got him KO'd. Like just threw everything against, just threw all defense like out of the equation. So there has to be questions around Drakar's IQ and in-fight decision making. But while he is well-rounded, I think he also wears the damage and very clearly shows signs of being fatigued. But because of how well-rounded he is, he can adapt and be well-versed in bad situations for the most part and just find a way to get a win. Joel Alvarez, he's been in the UFC since 2019 and has amassed a record of 6 wins, 2 losses in the promotion, winning all 6 of his fights by finish, 3 subs and 3 KOs. He has a 100% finish rate through his career with all his wins, but majority are through submissions. So he is dangerous on the feet and has clearly improved, shown through his clinical work in his last fight against Elvis Brenner. Like he mixed in straight shots, rips to the body, and he has brutal Muay Thai clinch where that's how he got the finish. It's just constant knees and elbows, and he is definitely a bit hittable and prone to getting countered, but he can take a shot, and when he connects flush, he really hurts his opponents. He is most dangerous on the ground, however, having 17 subs to his resume and a wide variety of subs at that. He doesn't have great takedown defense, but I think that's because he welcomes it. Like Joel Alvarez has no takedowns in the UFC as well. Like, yet he has 3 subs in the promotion, and but I think this is through his defensive grappling completely being an offensive attack. Like he locks up guillotines as he's getting taken down, just like with Joe Duffy. And if he doesn't get that initial guillotine, he'll scramble and get something like an armbar, just like he did with Yakovlev, or further scramble and get a dust like with Mark Casey. So finishing upside, definitely with Joel Alvarez, which is not to say Drakar can't get a finish himself, because he absolutely can land a fight-ending punch on Alvarez, but I feel Drakar will mostly be reactive in this fight, looking to counter, but try not to overcommit, as it could set up an entry for a takedown, or he could get clipped with something hard. Like Drakar has great takedown defense, 69% takedown defense accuracy, and Alvarez has poor takedown accuracy, with 0% in the promotion. So I think the fight will play out close through round 1, but in round 2, when a bit of fatigue is set in and Drakar is wearing some damage from straight shots, Joel's success with his striking will increase, and I think he will have Drakar on the skates at some point, leading to a panic takedown, and from there can snatch a choke of some sort. I know Drakar has never been subbed before, but he's been in compromising positions like his last fight, and he was lucky to escape because Joaquim Silva was absolutely gassed in that. I think this time around, if he finds himself in a bad position, he won't be so lucky against Alvarez. So I do lean Alvarez snatching a sub some point in round 2 or 3.
Yep, I am on the same page as you 100%. Jakar is just kind of like, he's kind of a nothing fighter, really, to me. Like, he has okay boxing offense. He's got okay wrestling. He's got like a decent ability to slow the fight down and win minutes by kind of stalling in the clinch against the cage. I think he tends to slow down in fights. More wrestling obviously makes this quicker. I just think his boxing defense has always been an issue. Like, he doesn't have any real head movement, and just moving backwards is super vulnerable to me. His recent performances don't really do anything to fill me with enthusiasm. Like, Selecki had some success wrestling him before that meme slam KO. It kind of nothing happened in that fight, really. And also he did like nothing really versus Silva before almost getting finished twice in the third. Like, he was winning the fight, but he still almost managed to lose that fight twice in the third, like really badly. I just don't think he's necessarily getting any better. He's not a huge finisher, and he's just insanely hittable to me. Onto Alvarez, just a ridiculous frame for lightweight, man. Like, huge length and size. Does seem struggle with weight cuts from time to time, obviously, but he looked sensational in that Elvis Brenner fight. He's a nice kickboxer on the outside. He likes to use his jab to pressure you backwards, keep you at his range on the outside, and use a variety of kicks and explode into range, normally 1-2 combinations. He attacks all 3 levels pretty well, pretty intelligently. He also just like creates big exchanges, and he's happy to end up on the inside because he's got really nice elbows and knees in the clinch. Takedown defense is average, but like you said, I think it's a little by design. He's just so comfortable fighting off his back on the ground and using his long limbs to kind of threaten a range of submissions or force scrambles. He's just a nasty finisher on the mat. I think his defense is like okay. It's not particularly good in terms of head movement, but I think you kind of mentioned this as well. I think his main defense is like his offense. He just employs his offense at such a pace and a will that you don't really have a chance to, have as much success offensively as you could. He's proved to be pretty durable and tough so far in the UFC. You just never want to really rely on that though. In his last fight versus Elvis Brenner, I thought he looked very patient. He's usually far more aggressive and kind of prone to overextend, but he was really patient. He was slow, calculated, and probably the best version I've ever seen of him in his last fight. Overall, I think Close probably could have wrestling success here, but he's going to be at such a athletic and physical disadvantage in almost every area. I think Alvarez is going to be landing far more damage, and if he's off his back, he's going to have an active guard and look to threaten submissions and create scrambles. I don't think Close can stand at range with Alvarez, and Alvarez's ability to tack down the middle with not only boxing combinations but also knees should help negate these takedown entries. Here's my question to you, right? So Alvarez is minus 350, but under 2.5 is minus 155. I think one of those prices have to be wrong, right? Because if you have Joel Alvarez at a minus 350, very heavy favorite, doesn't that imply that he finishes because he's a finisher?
Absolutely, yeah.
That would be.
He hasn't won by decision.
Yeah, that would be my inclination, right? Because he's a finisher. So if the books are favoring him this heavily to win the fight, then surely it's a finish fight.
Yeah.
So I think one of those prices has to be wrong. I'm probably more inclined to say it's the under. I think Joel probably deserves to be favorite. And yeah, I haven't exactly decided how I want to play this fight, but I think the unders has to get a massive look just because of Alvarez. I'm just gonna have anything you lean towards in terms of plays on this fight.
Like for a straight pick, Alvarez, but like at that price, I don't know. Like I'd want to like snipe a prop, like maybe submission.
Yeah, but, so both of his finish props are only plus 200-ish, like submissions plus 215, TKOs just under 300.
Yeah. How about in distance? I'd imagine.
Yeah, minus 135. So it's like almost even money, which isn't, I don't think that's the worst look. Like there's been a couple of those ones lately where I've shied away from them because they haven't been plus money, but they were such a gimme. Yeah. Like Chase Hooper by submission really should have played. I played him by TKO because I just thought the value on that was insane. I thought he was going to win by submission, but I thought there was a chance he would TKO him. But in hindsight, that was clearly the play. So maybe I just sack up and take the minus 135. Not sure, but that's how I feel on the fight anyway.
Yeah.
I'm going to comment in the chat. Good shit, boys. You'll get more subs and views eventually. Just keep plugging away. From John, I'm not going to try and butcher that last name, but thank you for the comment, mate.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're just doing our thing, just ticking away. It'll happen. All right, so we'll keep moving up the card. Oh dear. Oh dear. Now this is a fun one. Michael the Menace Johnson taking on Ottman, the Prince of, where's he from? Like a Morocco.
I don't know, man.
the Prince of Morocco. Ottman Azaitar. So let me just get some prices quickly. So Ottman Azaitar, slight underdog, minus 145 to 150. And then Michael Johnson, moderate favourite, minus 170 to minus 185-ish. Pretty ugly, really ugly prices all around. Yeah. I'll start this one off. I think my breakdown of this is very simple. It's very short. You've got the two best one-round fighters in the world. You hear? which sounds bizarre to say, but Johnson's the best in that he almost always wins round one against ridiculously good competition, and then goes on to get KO'd in round 2 or 3 or lose the decision. Whereas Ottman literally is win or lose, not getting out of round 1. So given that by itself, I'm auto playing under 1.5 rounds here at plus money. I don't care. Don't really need to know much else. Neither guy has a chin. Both guys hit hard. Hopefully one guy goes out there and finishes it. Under 1.5 is plus 110. I'm taking that every day of the week on these two spuds.
Yeah. I actually looked at those unders and thought, that is the play.
Yeah,
as well.
that's my breakdown. That's literally it.
Oh man, I don't blame you. Like, if you look at Michael Johnson, he is someone who can beat anyone and lose to anyone in the world, right?
Yep.
And he is someone that I have. Whenever I see him as a favorite, I've completely gone the other way and cashed a few times. And whenever he is the underdog, I've gone him and cashed a few times. And just hearing that he is the favorite here is like disgusting. But yeah, Ottman Azaitar, like you said, he is a 1-round fighter. Pretty sure
every fight has finished in round 1. He's never gone out of round 1.
Yeah. So
maybe 1 or 2 in later, but yeah, it's like very, very hard to the under 1.5.
Yeah. So one thing I was looking at as, before, I know he's on a 2-fight like finish streak to Matt Favola and Francisco Prado, where he took a year gap between each of those fights, and he has like another year gap before coming into this fight. But he was a 13-0 guy. Like, he was like this highly touted finisher, but he did only get wins over Karma Worthy. I could probably KO.
Yep.
And some guy named Timu Pakalin.
I remember that guy.
Do you?
He stiffed him bad. Yeah. I remember he hit him. He had a seizure. The guy's like feet was like fucking tweaking. I remember it very clearly.
Yeah. I think I do as well. Like, we're just looking through like the highlights package of all his finishes.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, with Azaitar being a plus 160, like, I almost feel inclined, just because I've like always gone the opposite of what the prices are on MJ, as I said. But I don't really like Azaitar as well. And yeah, the only play that I'll be interested in is that unders. And if Azaitar like somehow keeps on swelling up, maybe like a small nibble, like, he does have his back against the wall, like, but so does Johnson. But Johnson is coming off a win, and he's typically a win-loss fighter, so it could mean the next one's a loss. But Azaitar coming off two straight KO losses, back against the wall, he does have one-shot KO power and can finish the fight in round 1, and he does have every chance to land on MJ. So if it just swells up more, I might like have a small nibble on him. But yeah, just not much interest other than that unders.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to trust Michael Johnson at this point of his career. He just has never like fixed a hole that he has in his game. It's so strange.
Yeah, he just has these lapses of concentrations that just like every single time is just so costly.
Yeah.
Like, with Josh Emmett, that was a fight he was winning all the way through, and then was in the last minute he got KO.
Yeah, it was the last round, whenever it was.
Yeah, and then with Justin Gaethje, that was a war that, like, he had like a lot of success if he just kind of slowed the fight down and just found like the right shots rather than like being a wild man. He could have won that. Thiago Moises, if you remember that fight, he was dominating that first round, and then instantly in the second round got submitted.
Yeah.
And Diego Ferreira, that was a fight he came in as a favorite. He was dominating the first round, and he absolutely got like chinned. Like,
exact same knockout as the Emmett one.
Worse than I've ever. Yeah, same as the Emmett one. And there was another one, like, I think I'm gonna say Stevie Ray, where like MJ went down to featherweight. He only had like a 2-fight stint at featherweight, but he went down and he was dominating against Stevie Ray for like a substantial amount of. No, it was Darren Elkins. He was just on Darren Elkins like at will in that first round, and then he just completely gassed, and then Elkins took over. But yeah, that under 1.5 is the only good look.
I mean, his level of competition is absolutely insane. Like, I'll start from the bottom and I'll go up his career. I'd say I'm always going to miss people, but I'm going to name the biggest ones: Tony Ferguson,
One, yeah,
Edson Barboza, won both those. Lost to Beneil, lost to Nate, beat Dustin Poirier, lost to Khabib, lost to Gagey, beat Philly, lost to Emmett. Like, the names on his resume are insane, and
Yeah.
he's actually beaten some of them as well, which is just bizarre. This guy.
Yeah, and he is the only one that like ever like put any like decent damage on Khabib.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. Did you have trouble finding the Prado Azaitar fight?
Like on Fight Pass?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah, I had trouble.
I couldn't find it anywhere. I remember it very clearly because I mean, he got fucking butchered, and Prado just walked him down and just mobbed him basically.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find it on YouTube. I couldn't find it on. There's like an MMA core that I use that has like backups. Didn't have it on there. It wasn't on YouTube anywhere. I don't know if the goddamn Crown Prince of Morocco has fucking paid everyone to delete that.
Yeah, on Fight Pass, I had to go to the actual like card.
Yeah, right.
And then like skip through like an hour and away. But
yeah, right.
Yeah, Prado like bodied him.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was just me. I mean, competition is not even close. Prado and Frivola are his best fights, really. So it's not even close. But yeah, I don't know. Violence seems the option for me against two untrustworthy guys who are absolutely flaky.
Yep, I like it.
All right, let's keep moving. We have the UFC debut of Navajo Sterling coming off of Dana White's Contender Series, taking on, I think he was formerly George Tokos, but now he's Toko Tokos.
Yeah, I saw like I noticed that.
Yeah, I don't know what the
change. George, someone Tuco.
Yeah, he sounds. I don't know. It sounds more Greek than English, but I don't know much about him. But yeah, minus Navajo Sterling, heavy favorite, minus 650 coming in against Tokos, who is plus 450, 475, somewhere around there. You want to start us off?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, this is a clear layup spot for Navajo. He won his Dana White Contender Series fight this season with a second round KO from a left hook. I'm pretty sure we cashed from that second round.
Yes, we did. Yeah, we had round 2 and round 3 to cash the second one, which was nice.
Yeah. Can I just say that Contender Series was like so good with like your style of like betting?
Yeah, I think it's just more. It plays into my style a bit more because I don't know. I just think you can see the urgency in these guys. They want to win and they want to finish. So you end up getting a lot more. I mean, also the competition level is lower generally across the board. So you get these guys that are much better and have bigger angles to finish. But yeah, when you play props and those sort of angles, Contender Series is like extremely lucrative.
Yeah, like it was hitting every week.
Yeah, I think we only didn't profit like 1 or 2 weeks out of the whole 10 or 11. So it was a good stretch. Definitely the highlight was, do you remember that Duben, that chick?
Yeah, the one that got that knockout.
Yeah, we had him by knockout at like, fuck, I don't remember what it was. It was like 25-1 or something.
That was insanity.
That was insane. I missed my Contender Series.
Yeah. What do you think separates like a Contender Series like contest than like a early prelims between like two like unknowns? Like, is it the safety that they are in the UFC already?
As in like the performances?
Yeah, like
yeah, I think
they could be in better levels. Like an early prelims, much more skilled than a Contender Series fight. But do you think like the Contender Series fight, just that little bit of wanting it more, like, is the difference?
Yes, 100%. They've already got the contract when they're on the early prelims. So like most of the time, they're not really they're not potentially fighting for their career, or they're not fighting to get that foot in the door. So I definitely think that changes things for sure. And it also adds pressure, like fighting in front of Dana White, fighting in the small Apex. There's a whole range of things.
Yeah. I wanted to dive into the Contender Series, like just talk in general, because this breakdown is really not that long.
Yeah, no, we can talk about it like when maybe we can do Contender Series streams when it comes back next year.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. But yeah, this is a clear layup spot. Sterling is he shares the same traits as other of his city kickboxing like mainstays, like carries himself with confidence on the feet, a lot of feints, a lot of kicks, good control of range and sharp, like decent striking. And like he has this like weird trait, where he just touches his nose like every.
Yeah, just because of that.
That was just a pain to watch. Like something about it just pissed me off.
Yeah.
But they all it might be better than like pulling up the shorts here and there. But yeah, Navo Sterling, he's never fought anyone good. Like his Dana White Contender Series fight was his best opponent, Philip Latu, at 6 wins and 1 loss. But he only beat guys with bad records, and he looked terrible against Navajo Sterling. The record of Sterling's past opponents before that fight was 8-8, 9-8, and then 15 wins, 13 losses, and 2 draws.
I talked about it on in our when we broke it down on Contender Series. But I used to work with a guy who's beat a guy that Sterling has beat.
Yeah.
There's a guy at my work who was an amateur MMA fighter. He's actually a champion in Hex.
Yeah.
And he beat that Stu Dare. And I love the bloke, but he wasn't like the highest level of fighter ever.
Yeah.
So just to have that is, it's maybe not the best look.
So that's what we're dealing with in terms of level competition. So would you say that makes Sterling a future fade spot?
Yeah, potentially. Like I think he's got angles that he could for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially with price tags like this.
Yeah, like this price tag is stupid. But he is against Tuco Tokos, who is really not that good. Yeah, he's a champion somehow in 2 organizations, Premier FC, where he won by arm triangle choke in a 5-rounder. This was in round 4. And in Fury FC, where he knocked out Ty Flores in the first round with a right to the body and left hook combo. And that's the exact same combo that Sterling landed in Contender Series. But yeah, Tokos is not good. While he has power that is shown to turn the lights off against terrible competition, he has sloppy striking and terrible defense. The only edge you can give him is grappling, but he needs to get Navajo to the ground early, rain damage through ground and pound to get him out, or exhaust him to the point where he is a whole different fighter in round 2. And I don't think Tukos is that level of grappler. City Kickboxing are well versed as well in their defensive grappling, and while Sterling is very green, Tukos will just be another showcase for him. So I think Sterling touches Tukos up on the feet with relative ease and will look elite doing so, stuffing any grappling attempts by Tukos throughout the fight and eventually land a fight-ending counter within the first 2 rounds, maybe end of the first round.
Yep, I'm completely with you there. But there's nothing particularly much to touch on that you haven't touched on. It seems like one of those binary fights. Sterling is a career kickboxer. He's coming out of the CKB factory. It looks like they've absolutely just 3D printed this guy. He's got a big frame for the division, got a long reach. If you stay at kicking range, he's just going to pick at you from the outside with a jab and the calf kick. I don't think he's infallible defensively. He's very stiff, and his head is extremely straight up and central. But he's got okay footwork that allows him to avoid shots. Not a great wrestler. Will move in and try and clinch you, out-muscle you in close and land knees and elbows. Overall level of competition is really bad, to be honest. And he's still green, but clearly just a super athlete with some very burgeoning skills. Tokos, this guy is legit just terrible. Awful striker, offensively and defensively. I honestly don't even know what an ideal fight for Tokos looks like. Do you have any idea?
How Tokos' defense look like?
No, what's his ideal fight?
Oh,
I don't even know. Sterling, obviously, he's just pick at you for 15 minutes at the range, but I literally don't know what that comparison is for Tokos.
I don't know, man. He's
you can't even name it.
He's the only fights that I've watched from him where he was successful are ones that just against terrible competition where he's just finished them, but over the course, I just don't.
It's he has to fight an absolute melt to even have a chance. He gets very squared up when you push him backwards. I think a high-level kickboxer will really exploit this with a range of kicks to set up the hands. I will say he is pretty gritty. If he can take that much damage from Zhang and stay in there before that brutal KO, which was very brutal. He also like did defend against Sai for a little bit, so I kind of do give him some kudos there. But I just think he gets out physical bad in his losses. He's got no real grappling. He's a fish defensively. Just not a guy you want to have money on. I just think Sterling's going to pick Tokos apart if they stay on the feet. Not sure Tokos has anywhere to really have success in this fight, and I think he's live to kind of just get out-muscled by the better athlete. Volumes on the Sterling side, powers on his side too. The only issue is I think it could sort of be at any point. Like Sterling's pretty calculated and patient, I'd say. He's not like a guy that's going to go nuts and swarm you. I think he's more live to just sort of chip at you, and then just, land that big shot later. Which makes me think like maybe a Sterling, again, like I go back to the well with a Sterling round 2, round 3 play.
Yeah.
But I also think with a melt, like Tokos could go down at really any point. So probably be a pretty sweaty watch. Yeah.
Yeah, if we had a round 2 bet on this one, it'll be a very sweaty round 1 where Tokos could very well just run in, like knowing that like his best shot is to get him down early. And
100%.
Hope it's something stupid.
100%. Yeah, it makes it kind of hard to get it from a betting angle. I mean, I'm obviously not playing minus 650 on a guy who's on UFC debut, but I'd be shocked if he lost.
Yeah.
Be very shocked. All right, keep moving on. If anyone in the chat's got any questions or anything while we're breaking down these fights, just leave us a comment and we'll address them as we get through it. I think we've got like 5 more fights maybe.
Yeah, we've blitzed through it today.
Yeah, nice. This is a good fight. This is a really good fight. This is what I'm really interested in. So we've got Adrian Yanez taking on Daniel Marcos, 16-0, which is just an impressive record. And kind of like a little bit under the radar, I'd say. Daniel Marcos comes in with slight favoritism, minus 175, looks like. And then come back on Yanez. You've got plus 150, actually. Plus 150 now. I'll start this one off. I like Daniel Marcos. Like I kind of have always liked him. I know he gets like a bit of a rub of people saying he's boring, but he's 16-0. He's clearly getting better. And while like his overall level of competition is pretty low, I think he's been really well managed. Like he's getting the right size step ups, in my opinion, every time. And whilst he's, maybe having some contentious, close fights, I think you can see that he's getting better. He's an intelligent striker who likes to apply very subtle forward pressure, kickbox you at range, target all 3 levels with boxing combinations, and just patiently stalk you and pick at you. He likes to attack up the middle a lot, likes to throw the knee up the middle or explode into range with flying knees also. I think he's pretty intelligent defensively also. He's relatively hard to hit clean and absorbs far less shots per minute compared to Yanez. He's shown relatively good takedown defense as well so far in the UFC against the cage. He hasn't fought like an amazing wrestler or anything by any means, but he's also not facing one here in Yanez, so not like a huge concern for me in this one. Look, he is in close fights when he's not finishing. He's in these kickboxing affairs that get drawn out and have potential openings. Like the Castaneda fight, he had Castaneda hurt multiple times bad in that fight. Wasn't able to finish him. And although like he was clearly winning the fight, he kicked and wobbled really bad in the last 15 seconds. And like in another world, he could have potentially lost that fight. I say that to say having close fights just leaves openings for potential for a guy with power or, good boxing like a Yanez. On to Yanez. To me, he's pretty much just like an orthodox boxer. He'll throw the occasional kick, but mostly it's quick boxing combinations. I don't think he deals with kicks very well. And I think that's because he's always kind of looking to slip and counter your shots. So rather than relying on like a footwork in and out, he's relying on more of a feet planted sort of motion. So that's why I think he can be caught in no man's land sometimes against these kicks. Look, he's clearly got fast hands. I think he's got an okay jab and his counter right hand is super sharp. But I think sometimes he tries to throw it like super heavy and ends up looping his shots and making it actually slower than it could be. And I don't not like Yanez, but people talk about him like he's this incredibly technical boxer. I heard people talking about him as being one of the best boxers in the UFC, and I just don't agree. I don't think that a good boxer would ever have his actual fights like purely dictated off the back of his opponent's jab. Like Font basically changed the whole direction of that fight with his jab, which admittedly is a very good jab in the division. But also, like a guy like Randy Costa was absolutely butchering Yanez with his jab and forward pressure too. And I think he's like pretty awful. So I just think people tend to like overrate Yanez's boxing, in my opinion. I'm kind of surprised like the odds are this way. Usually Yanez gets this really big rub and like a big price tag to cover. But I think this price is actually accurate. Yanez probably has purely faster hands in terms of pure striking. But I think Marcos is way more intelligent defensively and can have kicking success in this one. Um, I wouldn't. I'm not like rushing to play either side here just yet. I need to do a little bit more tape. But to me, Yanez has slight volume output edge, but also gets hit more. So I think Marcos actually deserves to be a favorite. I'm surprised they priced him as a favorite, and yeah, to me, he deserves slight favoritism in this one. So I think the price is bang on.
Yeah. Nice breakdown, man. I agree with a lot of what you said, especially people overrating Adrian Yanez. Like, if you look at a lot of look at his last fight, for example, against Vinicius Salvador, he was just winging shots, right? Like,
yeah,
a lot of the people that we call the best boxers in the UFC, Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier, those are just to name a few. Like, they're knocking these guys out with like boxing combinations, clean boxing combinations. While like Yanez, he has some like cool boxing, yeah, but like in that last fight, he was just winging like overhands. Didn't see like really good boxing there. But I'll start with Daniel Marcos. Like you said, he is a 16-0 fighter, 8 KOs, 8 decisions. He's very patient, will look to spend the earlier parts of the round getting a feel for his opponent, will stay relatively safe, sticking his jab out and throwing like calf kicks, leg kicks, front kicks to disrupt rhythm. But when he does start to open up, he mostly times his opponent's attack to slip or roll under and then unload some heavy punches. He also looks to catch and counter kicks, and like he is pretty good at timing like jumping knees when opponents come in. He is defensively very responsible, and his 63% defense accuracy backs that up. He doesn't exert too much energy, fights at a relatively calm pace, but when he strings shots in succession, he turns up his output and does land at a very accurate clip. I also like how he keeps his feet under him at all times and is rarely off balance. Yanez, he is coming off a knockout win over Vinicius Salvador, which broke a 2-fight losing streak, being finished by leg kicks to Jonathan Martinez and KO to strikes by Rob Font. So Yanez is predominantly a boxer, and while he does throw kicks and engage in clinch battles at times, I think he limits himself to being a boxer in an MMA contest. Like earlier parts of fights, his opponent will try to establish a long range, but I don't think he allows that to happen. Like he marches forward, trying to catch kicks, and much like Daniel Marcos, will time his opponent's strikes to slip and rip or roll under and launch huge overhand rights and hooks. And he's always in position to counter as well. He does stand very heavy on his lead foot, which leaves him open to leg kicks, as exploited by Martinez and a little by Davy Grant as well. And he struggles defending straight shots, most notably jabs. He has a lot of confidence in his defense too, which is like not really warranted because his defense isn't that great. So I do see some similarities between the two in terms of their approach, but there's little margins which is favorable for either, but it's hard to predict which will be more significant. Like with Marcos' style of ducking and countering, that's effective on opponents who leave themselves open in the pocket, but Yanez, if he's not open in the pocket, he's someone that is immediately ready to counter an opponent's counter. And since Marcos mostly uses hooks in the pocket when he unloads, I can see Yanez pulling back or rolling under and then landing something hard to the body. But also, like I said earlier, Yanez can get caught with his hands down and marring his work. So that leaves an opening for Marcos to land. Yanez restricting himself to a boxing attack, with the exception of a few kicks at distance, and Marcos has a more active kicking game. He can engage in a clinch or threaten a takedown. Yanez has a good takedown defense accuracy, and Marcos has a poor takedown accuracy at that. But Marcos can still very well threaten it. I think this fight will play out close to start, like both being tentative to start the fight. And what makes this hard is that they both don't separate themselves too much in rounds if it's close. I pin this to Yanez fighting as if he knows he's going to get a finish. So if opponents are stringing together nice shots, he won't be in any rush to get one back. He'll just come forward and then land something big, like with Randy Costa and with Davy Grant. Like he was not in a hurry to get one back after they would land on him. And on the other hand, I feel Marcos tries to be as conservative as possible, even if it's evenly matched. But I'm going to lean that this fight will go to decision. Marcos can probably absorb some hard shots from Yanez, and I don't think Marcos has the finishing instinct to get Yanez out of there. And in that case, with Marcos being undefeated with 8 KOs and 8 decisions, while Yanez has been KO'd twice and lost by decision 3 times, in saying that they both have a common opponent, actually, in Davy Grant, a fighter who exerts a lot of volume and attacks. And Yanez went to a close split decision with him, while Marcos handled him pretty accordingly. Like he did face some adversity in that, but he was clearly winning rounds 2 and 3. But yeah, if I had to lean aside, it would be Daniel Marcos, and if I had to pick a outcome, it would be him by decision.
I like it. I think he feels more trustworthy, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, way more trustworthy than Yanez.
Yeah, I know he hasn't fought the same competition in terms of J Mart and Rob Font being very high level fighters that Yanez has faced, but I think when you get these slow step ups, it's good. It's good. And you just have to keep proving that you're at that level and you're better. And, Yanez is only coming off a fight against Salvador, who's shit and had his first fight at bantamweight. So I think it's a competitive fight. They had Daniel Marcos lined up against Said Nurmagomedov as well. So I think that kind of tells you where his trajectory is looking towards.
And like you said, with the small jumps in competition, I would say Davy Grant shows more weapons than your Adrian Yanez.
100%.
But can also match the output and volume. So
if this is a boxing fight, I think obviously it'll be pretty competitive. Gives Yanez the best chance of winning, but I still think Marcos could compete. But if it's a kickboxing match, I favor Marcos. If it gets in the clinch, I favor Marcos. I doubt it gets to the mat, but if it does, it's probably off the back of Marcos having some success, clinching and using some trips and throws, I would think. So I think Marcos has more paths to victory, but I was hoping I was going to get a sneaky one plus 150 or something on him. That's what I was expecting.
Yeah.
But when I saw that, obviously minus 170, I was like, oh, no, the books are onto it.
Yeah, that's a good price. An accurate price, I mean.
Yeah, 100%, which doesn't have me running to play this one. But, anyway. Mm-hmm. Keep moving. Up the card, we have a light heavyweight scrap of Vitor Petrino taking on Dustin Jacoby. You can start us off or just give us prices.
Yeah, mate.
Prices are sitting at Vitor Petrino minus 310 with the heavy price tag that he normally gets. And then Dustin Jacoby plus 260. Take us away.
Yeah. So Dustin Jacoby, he is coming off a first round KO loss to Dominic Reyes, where he was actually a minus 240 favorite. I found that line very stupid as well. Jacoby does have 12 KOs from 19 wins. He's nowhere near the same level of danger as past opponents like Yuri Prohaska, Jan Blachowicz, and a round 1 Ryan Spann. Just a round 1 Ryan Spann. But he certainly lacks the raw power that they all possess. Jacoby is a pretty high-level kickboxer who went on a 6-fight win streak with one draw against Kudalaba. And, he has been struggling in recent times, going 1 win and 4 losses in his last 5. He typically fights long and fights from both stances, keeping his feet wide, throws a lot of feints using his hands and his legs. and will reach out and paw on his opponent's left hand, gauging their reactions as he works into range, working his jab. And if they try to counter his jab, he has a nice step back left hook. Once he gets going, he's pretty sharp and is good at being first and third in exchanges, avoiding counters and landing his own. He's not fast, but he is accurate and well paced. He's just so chinny. Like he has so many lapses in concentration and really shit IQ. Like in the past, he's wrestled in a third round of a fight he needed a finish to win. And against Dominic Reyes, he rushed like right into a straight left counter and he was put away. Against Alonzo Menifield, that was a fight he was winning 90% of. Got dropped in rounds 2 and 3, which cost him the decision. I think that fight is the best example to look at when going into this one with Vitor Petrino. So Petrino is 9 years younger than Jacoby, very physically imposing and carries a lot of explosive power. I don't want to say that he's on the juice, but he might be.
He's on the juice.
There it is.
I'll say it.
After winning his Contender Series fight in devastating fashion, he went four straight wins, defeating the likes of Anton Tokali, Marcin Prachnio, Modestas Bukauskas by a brutal left hook, and Tyson Pedro by decision. So these matchups, they're not in any way high level, but I'd say it helped him steadily build some steam and then get him ready for like a big step up. And then his big step up came in his hometown in Brazil in the biggest stage, and he dropped the ball against Anthony Smith. Like he walked straight into an Anthony Smith guillotine. So
he put himself in that guillotine.
Yeah, like he just went straight for it. Like also looking at his tape, it is clear Vitor Petrino is a fighter with zero process. Like he just comes to fight and relies on instincts, his physicality and attributes. His success is completely reliant on how many openings his opponents present and mistakes that they make. Like he doesn't set up strikes with feints, he just throws. And when he does get KOs, it's during pocket exchanges where opponents just leave themselves open, just like his KO in Dana White Contender Series and in that fight against Bukauskas. His takedowns as well, they aren't from him setting up his own entries. They're usually at the back of opponents, crashing into the pocket, and then him going, oh, they're right here, grabs a hold of them and uses his explosive power to just bring them to the mat. Or his takedowns come through him just moving forward into the pocket, seeing an opponent shell up, and rather than be patient to set up a shot, he mindlessly just crashes into it, a takedown attempt, which was exactly what happened against Anthony Smith. Like Anthony Smith was backing up against the fence with his hands up in a completely defensive position. Like a seasoned striker would have just kind of stepped back and set up a shot, or like a wrestler would have had like a better entry, but he just went straight for it and gave up his neck. That shows really low IQ. So I believe any fighter with a good level of striking, range control, and for the most part is defensively responsible will trouble Petrino. And like those requirements are the bare minimum for fighters to trouble him. Like his striking from distance is no good. His punches are wide, but he's been lucky to find opponents' chins in the pocket, and his physical attributes have gotten him this far. The best part of his game is when he's on top. He does attack subs and is quite heavy on top control. And if he can get a takedown as Jacoby marches forward, then I would favor him to dominate Jacoby on top or take a round by staying on top. As far as skills on the feet, Jacoby is superior. And I think he could once again find himself to be winning 90% of this fight and then having a lapse of concentration get put out. So seeing Jacoby at those numbers is more intriguing than playing anything that favors Vitor Petrino. If I had to make a pick, it would be Jacoby. Very low confidence as well, but just like a lot of fights, if I see his numbers swelling up, then I might be inclined to play it. But yeah. I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm back. I completely agree with you. Jacoby is clearly the better striker overall in the fight. He's got the glory kickboxing background. But the issue for me is he's just getting so old and so slow and so chinny. And his style that he used in the glory days is just it doesn't work for him anymore because he gets hit too much and he can't handle it. Vitor Petrino, like later complete egg in the last fight versus Anthony Smith, which somehow we were able to call just to perfection, which made it hilarious.
Yeah.
We had Smith by sub. I can't remember the number. I think it was like maybe plus 600, something like that. I don't really remember. But watching him jump that and Vitor just put his head even deeper into that guillotine and get tapped in the first 2 minutes was just amazing. It was hilarious. It was on Greek Easter. I remember I couldn't stop laughing.
And that was a fight where every single favorite won, and then he shit the bed.
He just absolutely shit the bed in his hometown. It was so funny to watch. Look, I know light heavyweight isn't a talent stacked division for the most part, but his level of competition is just so shit. It's just so low tier. Like light heavyweight tends to rely on athletic advantage and physicality, and Petrino has it, and steroids in spades, in my opinion. He's got a very herky-jerky kickboxing style on the feet. Like, I don't think it's necessarily bad, but it's very telegraphed at times, but does have good power if you can land. He only lands 2.82 significant strikes per minute so far. Sounds low volume on first inspection, but have to remember that he is a decent wrestler who looks to mix it in. Averages just under 4 takedowns per 15 minutes. Again, numbers are a little bit skewed there, given the Turk Ali fight where there was 12 takedowns between him in a weird sort of scrambling wrestling match. Regardless, I think his athleticism just allows him to win positions, mainly through strength against the cage. I think he's decent on the mat. He's a big guy. He's hard to get off you. Not super dangerous, but he's good at winning minutes on the ground. Look, if it was maybe 4 years ago, I would contemplate a Jacoby play, but I can't put money on this guy at this point. Like, as you said, he could be winning 14 minutes of this fight and get bonked in the 15th. Like, if he did that, he probably justifies his price tag. But I'm just not really interested in playing Jacoby. I'm not interested in playing Petrino either, because he's like one of the most untrustworthy favorites you could ever put your money on in your whole entire life. So I think I might attack this from like a live betting angle. I think that's a play that I'm going to settle with. Hopefully Jacoby has like some success early in round one. He's able to just kind of box him up, and then, maybe Petrino drifts to like a, minus 150, 180 sort of range. And then I'd be content to look at him live as the fight goes on if, everything was going to plan. But pre-match, not anything that interests me here.
Yeah. What's Jacoby's current number at?
Plus 260.
260. Yeah, if it gets to plus 320, then that's when I'll be intrigued. But yeah, I'm not gonna touch.
Yeah, I think that's the angle for sure. And I think some people will be burnt from when Petrino burnt them on that with the parlays against Smith. So maybe we don't see like a huge shift in his number as the week goes on, but maybe, you never know. People are dumb and they have short memories, so potentially they will.
Yeah.
All right, that's absolutely just a shit fight, really. But yeah, anyway, I don't want to talk anymore about it. Let's move up the card. Flyweight, we've got Manel Cap, based Manel Cap taking on Bruno Silva. Prices, we are Manel Cap at a very, very significant favourite price of minus 340, 350.
Minus 340?
Yeah.
Oh, that's dumb. And
the comeback on Bruno Silva, plus 280. Let me just get my notes up on this one. Order all over the place. So yeah, Manel Cap, I just don't really know like what to think of Cap at this point. I like him as a fighter overall. He's mostly fun to watch, but I don't think he's like a great minute winner for me. I'm going to forgive the match with Mikhaev. Foot injury definitely affected him, so I think you can give him like a slight pass on that one. But like, he's a fun kickboxer. He's got pretty sharp kickboxing, throws a good volume and power, fights out of both stances. I think he's got an extremely solid flyweight resume, in my opinion. I think I don't know if he'll be at a speed advantage of this one. Like, Silva was getting absolutely dog walked by Durden, was losing the fight on the feet, was getting out wrestled, was in some dangerous submission spots for a while, but was just able to land a huge uppercut on Durden and take advantage of that. So I think you have to respect the power that this guy has in his hands. He's got a very small frame, very light on his feet, very speed reliant, but he's got solid boxing combinations, pretty good power for the division. I think his style might frustrate Cap a little bit because Cap wants to engage and have these exchanges, but I don't know if Bruno Silva will give it to him. Like, I think Bruno Silva might be content to sort of circle on the outside, land his big shots, and then be out of range before Cap can counter. I don't know. I don't really have like a strong opinion on this fight. I think Cap has a tendency to fight close if he can't KO him with like this wild shot, and Silva seems to have solid power in his hands, but I think Cap could be better at like mixing everything together. Cap resume is not even close. I think he definitely deserves to be the favorite, but I don't know. I just feel like the line feels wide to me. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. Like the thing with Cup is he is like such a big underperformer at times. So like that line at minus 340, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, minus 340. That is completely bizarre to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like I said, I did all my tape for this fight, and I don't know, I just couldn't come to like a strong decision. It just like his fight against Felipe dos Santos, right? He's a minus 400 favorite. Takes him on short notice, and he kind of got worked at points in that fight. Felipe just outvolumed him and was able to outdog him at points. Cap clearly won the fight, but Felipe well overperformed his price tag, and I think Cap definitely underperformed his. Against Dvorak, like he's a minus 260 favorite. We saw some weird exchanges. Did he get injured, or was that Dvorak who got injured in that one?
I don't quite remember that one.
I just remember there being like a small injury and like it being a weird fight. The Makayev fight, he fucking snaps his toe like a couple minutes in that first round. Can't stand on his right foot properly. Again, he was a plus 180 underdog, but again, like I don't know, I just find this guy like hard to catch sometimes. That's my only issue with him, and I think he's fought by far the better guys, and I think he's going to have like a pretty sizable size strength advantage if he can get in the clinch. But I just think Bruno's like, I don't know, he's just like a weird dude. He's quick, he's got quick hands, he's got powerful hands, he's got weird footwork. I think I don't think you could bonk Cap because I think Cap's pretty durable. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not rushing to play like a minus 345 on Cap. I don't know. It just felt wide to me. That was my final outcome. That was it.
Yeah, understandable. Like I said earlier, Manel Cup, huge underperformer at his best. Like he did come into the UFC with like a lot of hype because of his extensive highlight reels in like in Portugal and in Ryzen, getting plenty of finishes, being in a lot of exciting wars. He even won against Kaya Sakura, finishing him in round 2. So what I like about him, he's clinical in his approach when he's striking, especially when he's very confident. And on top of very good striking, he has natural athleticism, raw power, and he does have like solid offensive grappling, but his defensive grappling is where his deficiency is at. And I couldn't trust him at minus 340, if I'm honest, man. Like his debut fight in the UFC, it was against Pantoja. And Cup looked reluctant to engage, and he was just so timid. He lost that fight clearly by decision. And in his second fight against Mateus Nicolau, someone who's substantially less dangerous in striking, and while I scored it for Manel Cup at the end, he clearly like had the striking edge, and he should have done way more. He lost that fight by split decision. And then he found his groove again by getting 2 straight round 1 finishes against Odi Osborne through a flying knee, and Zalgas Zumagulov, where he landed like 53 out of 72 strikes in the first round. Like this was a showcase of his finishing ability from his Ryzen days. And then he did get that decision over David Dvorak, where there was like some questions around. It might have been Carper got injured.
There was a weird shoulder injury in like a weird grappling sequence. I just remember. I actually think it might have been Cap, but I don't remember. I've got to watch it back again. But yeah.
And then he had that very, very close fight against Felipe dos Santos, where he just massively underperformed, and dos Santos, if anything, overperformed. He had dos Santos hasn't really impressed me in his UFC run. With Makayev, yeah, you could forgive him for the toe injury, but these are two guys that were like couldn't be in a room with each other without like running at each other, and like they spent that first round like just staring at each other from like 2 meters away.
100%.
So he went back to being like pretty timid in that fight, and Makayev won that by out grappling him. So Bruno Silva, he's a fighter who in 2 years has only fought twice, but he did get wins in them, like against Durden and Tyson Nam, like Tyson Nam he finished like pretty well. So I had a bet on Cody Durden in the last fight. I'm pretty sure you did as well.
I did as well, yeah.
Yeah, and look, Durden in that round one looked absolute money, and
He looked fucking minus 1,000.
minus 1,000 that first round. And if anything, you got to give props for Silva for hanging in there and like getting that KO in the end. So Silva, he's lightning fast, can fight from both stances, and he's always showing something to his opponent, whether he's circling around the cage, feinting, changing levels and stances, or he's attacking with like boxing combinations. Like he kicks high and low, will time to throw like something flashy, like spinning back fists. Like against Tyson Nam, he threw like 3 or 4 spinning back fists in the first round. It was like he's just always active and always looking to just keep his opponents occupied. He generates a lot of power through his speed, and on top of that, he doesn't telegraph his strikes. He has recorded a knockdown in all of his last 4 fights, knocked out Durden with that uppercut, dropped Tyson Nam with a front kick and finished him through choke. Victor Rodriguez and JP Bays, not the best competition, but he landed like a really, really nice right cross against them. While he offers a lot of offense, he can be countered as he blitzes in or with combos as he moves back. Like Durden marched forward and didn't give like Silva any space in the first round and had a lot of success. But he is very hard to hit from distance, as he's extremely like hard to find standing still. Like his grappling game is also very good. He only has a 28% takedown accuracy, mostly because he will change levels and kind of half commit to takedowns just to disrupt his opponent's rhythm. But he's active when he is on top with ground and pound, looking to take the back and lock in something like a rear naked choke. So in this matchup, while I feel Cape is the more complete striker and has this style to like absolutely outclass Silva on the feet, I actually think Bruno will make Manel Cape very uncomfortable with all the constant activity, and he has the speed advantage, which is something Cape will not be too used to. The thing with Cape is, and you see it through his entire career, when he is comfortable and mentally he knows he cannot be touched, he absolutely demolishes like opponents. Or if he maintains his confidence, but he's lured into a slugfest, like fights will play out really close, like with Felipe dos Santos. But if you make him uncomfortable and give him multiple things to think about, he reverts back to being conservative, timid, and defensive-minded. Like he'll still try to pick his spots, however, but like if opponents like slow down or are resetting, that's when it opens Cape up to unloading. But I feel Silva will just constantly keep on moving. Like, I think he will completely overwhelm Cape with nonstop movements and activity, always throwing something out to occupy Cape, even from distance that don't land, like strikes, like he'll still throw something from every angle. And, Silva is also very hard to catch standing still. Like something I know Cape relies on when he backs up opponents is trying to find the right opening. But I think Silva will, I think Cape will back him up against the fence, load up with something, but then before he could even like throw it, like Silva's already like all the way to the right. Silva also has a grappling upside, and we've seen how like Cape's defensive grappling has gone in the past. Like he's not bad, but he can be controlled for a significant amount of time. But yeah, I am actually gonna go on a limb here and go with Bruno Silva by decision. Like I just think Cape just can't be trusted, especially at minus 340. And since a lot of his success is confidence based, I think Bruno will make him very uncomfortable from the get go, and kind of take minutes away from him. So
yeah, I've only got like a couple of things to add as well. I think flyweight is like one of those divisions where they seem to compete very well across the board. Like whether or not they're ranked. Like, and what I mean by that is like you get a Filippo dos Santos who comes in, has a shit level of competition, isn't ranked, fights a guy like Manel who I think was ranked at the time, and like clearly overperforms his price tag and makes a really competitive fight. And I think it's because like most of the guys in flyweight are just ridiculously well-rounded. They're fast, they're quick, they're well-rounded in every asset of MMA. They just have very competitive fights, I feel like, across the board. And the other thing is that we just saw what Josh Van did to Durden. And Josh Van didn't take half as much damage as Bruno Silva, and he still wasn't able to fucking knock Durden as bad as Silva did.
Yeah.
So the fact that Silva can absorb that much damage and pressure in 2 rounds and then still somehow land that big shot, one shot, put Durden down bad, and then finish him, it's a pretty good sign, I think.
Yeah, and Durden was still very fresh in that Silva fight. Well, in the Josh Van fight, he was completely gassed in that second,
and still couldn't get him out of there. Yeah. So clearly, this guy's got power in his hands. I don't know if I'm personally going to get to playing it yet, but it does just like it's super tempting.
Yeah, when I've like lined this fight as a Manel Cup, should be like a slight favorite.
Yeah,
like, I think Bruno Silva like it has to be the side. From
what would you price it? Because I think I would probably have cap favorite at like minus 200. Probably feels fair.
Yeah, minus 200.
I think.
Yeah, minus 200, minus 150.
But plus minus 340 just feels absurd.
Yeah, for an underperformer.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
he's a hard guy to trust. I'm just got a comment as well. It says, "Hello from Ohio. You fellas are international. UFC needs to bring back CM Punk." UFC does not need to bring back CM Punk. Yeah. But thanks for watching.
Hello from Sydney.
Thanks for watching, Huck. It's been, I know, actually, he's commented on the channel for a while. I remember him. We'll keep moving up the card. I think we've got 2 fights left. Yeah.
Yeah.
2 fights. So on to, is this the co-main?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because on Tapology, it's listed as Dustin Jacoby versus Petrino.
Yeah, I had that too.
As the co-main?
As a co-main. But, I just adjusted my notes, so it was
okay. So this isn't the co-main event, so...
I'm not even sure, actually.
It can be our co-main event.
Yeah.
So we've got Cub Swanson taking on Billy Quarantillo. Have to think that Cub is getting, in the last couple of fights of his career, don't you think? Like, he couldn't have more than a couple left.
Yeah. Maybe just one more.
Yeah, he's 41, had 10 finished losses, 14 losses overall. I think he's, 1 or 2 more fights max. Price, we have Billy Quarantillo sitting at minus 153, slight favorite, and then Cub Swanson, the comeback, plus 133. Slight underdog. You can kick us off here.
Yep. So I'll start with Billy Q. He's coming off a second round submission loss to Yusuf Zalal, which is a loss that's aged in Billy's favor. Like Billy did look really off that fight, no doubt. But I think Zalal, being as good as he's proven to be, takes some heat off the idea that he's washed. He is 35, however. He has been trading wins and losses since 2020. Like, he knocked out Carl Nelson, but then lost to Gavin Tucker. Knocked out Gabriel Benitez, but then lost to Shane Burgos. Beat Alex Hernandez by KO, and then got KO'd badly by Barbosa. Beat Damon Jackson by unanimous decision, and then lost to Zalal. So, like, if that pattern continues here, then, but in saying that, Cub Swanson, he's also on a win-loss streak, and I think he is coming off a loss. Yeah. Yeah, so,
he's been on that win-loss streak since 2019.
2019. But, Billy Q, he is known for his durability. Like, he's a grinder who his success has come down to his opponents fading and then turning up the offensive pressure. He typically starts off slow, and since he isn't the slickest striker, he gets hit pretty easily. He's pretty flat-footed and isn't landing with frequency like earlier in fights, and he can be taken down like just as easily. Like, he usually drops that first round, but then when he gets to the corner, his coach gives him like some sort of a math equation, and suddenly this wakes him up and starts building into the fight in round 2, and then all this all the strikes on the feet that weren't hitting the mark in round one start landing as opponents become more stationary, and then he increases the volume. Like in round one against Alex Hernandez, he threw 48 strikes and landed 19. But then in round two, threw 103 strikes and landed 68, getting the TKO in that round. So he doubled the amount of output of attempted strikes, and he tripled the amount of landed strikes. Similarly, in round one against Damon Jackson, he threw 35 strikes, landed 15. In round two, he threw 69, landed 40. And in round three, threw 84 and landed 45. So he's always increasing the output and increasing the accuracy in these fights that he's winning. So essentially, you have to finish him early or have the ability to hold him down or like keep him at bay for entire fights. Grappling wise as well, he will tend to get taken down and controlled in that first. And in round two, he's just way more effective suddenly in defending these same takedowns. And then he'll threaten like subs himself. His opponent, Cub Swanson, much older fighter at age 41. And he's coming off two very iffy decisions, like in his last two fights. He got a win against Hakeem Dawodu that should have been a loss. Like he even was surprised he got that win. And then he lost by split decision to Andre Fili, a close fight. Probably should have gone his way. Like I had a bet on Andre Fili taking it by decision, but I thought at the time that it would have been close. Probably leaned towards Cub winning that, but yeah, Cub has been in the UFC since 2011, and as an extension of that, he was in the WEC since 2007. His career has been one big highlight reel of flashy finishes and all that was. So he's very dynamic. He's well versed in all facets of the game, high level, like in kickboxing and boxing. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu and has showcased like advanced techniques in all disciplines. Like on top of that, he's very precise and carries a lot of power. I think Cub's best work is when he is in the boxing range with his hands down and countering. Like his punches come from the hips, so it's hard to read when he throws, and he just looks to slip or pull back counter on opponents. But while he is well-rounded, he has absorbed a whole lot of damage in his career and been prone to being finished, especially in the last few years. One thing I will say is he has 3 losses by KO, which isn't too concerning in terms of his chin because, like, in 2009, he was KO'd by a prime Aldo from a flying knee. Fair enough. But since then, he's only been KO'd to he's barely been KO'd to strikes to the head. I think it was Giga.
There's the body, yeah.
Body kick. And Jonathan Martinez that finished him through leg kicks.
Yeah.
Hasn't absorbed any KO shots to the head or hasn't been finished in that sense. But as expected, his body and his body is definitely on the decline, and absorbing like damage from those kicking specialists would crumble most 40-year-olds. So good on him for still being here today, fighting. While he is a jiu-jitsu black belt, he has like seven or 8 losses by sub. And
I think 9, maybe, yeah.
9, yeah. So
7, yeah, you're right.
7, yeah. He is getting subbed a lot, and if Cub isn't completely getting like out of class in a fight, he tends to let some fights like get away from him. Like if his opponents start to lift their game after he had a successful round 1, they start building on their success. Like he finds it hard to regain momentum, and I think that may come down to this fight as well. Like skill for skill, I don't think it's close. Like Cub is a much more complete and overall better MMA fighter than Billy Q, but Cub's tendency of letting fights get away from him and the fact that he's 41 and most certainly closing in on the end of his career, it is what points me towards Billy Q getting the win. Like, is Billy Q a washed fighter? Perhaps not, but I think we'll have to see with other competition. But I know when both these guys are fresh in round 1, Cub will look like absolute money. He'll be tagging Billy up from boxing range, but if you can't get Billy out of there from round 1, I could only see Billy building in round 2 and 3 and getting like a win by maybe split decision or maybe a unanimous decision 28-27.
Yep. Feels like a weird, just a weird fight. Like I think when you have a guy who fights like Billy Quarantillo, there is a very, very sharp decline towards the end of the career. I don't know if that started already or not, but I think it'll come. He's 36. He absorbs a ridiculous amount of damage. If this guy's still in the UFC by 40, I'll be pretty shocked. I'll be pretty surprised. Yes, I'll start with Cub. I think very clearly in the end portion of his career, still competing really well, but sometimes just doesn't have enough, juice in the tank sometimes to give. Like he still wants to be in there and still tries, but sometimes it just seems like he's just that bit away. His style hasn't really changed throughout the years as the time's passed. Still got the very same low hand style, lots of head movement, footwork to help explosive attacks in and out. I think he's held on to his power relatively well. Like, still has a really good kicking offense. And if you don't have great defense or poor footwork, there's still a chance that he could put you down. I think he's still a decent striker. He's pretty well rounded. He's got some dangerous submissions to negate wrestling entries, but I do think he can be out grappled at times. Now, on to Billy Quarantillo. He's just an aggressive, big, dumb idiot of a fighter, really. Can't fight moving backwards, has no footwork in and out. He's very plodding and tends to follow and walk into shots. This is going to sound bizarre, but he's got little to no defense to any strike, which I know sounds hilarious to say, but his defense rate to significant strikes is like below 40%, which is super low. And if you watch him in his fights, he literally doesn't have a defense. Like, he doesn't move his head. He's not really blocking shots. He walks into shots. He doesn't defend against body or leg attacks. He's just a bizarre fighter. He wants to track you down, wear on you in the clinch, add some wrestling attempts if you let him, but basically just wants to walk you down and wear at your gas tank. He's taken a shitload of damage through his career, and I personally am starting to question his durability a little. It looks like he's starting to get hurt in more and more fights. Look, he does fight at a crazy pace generally, puts out insane volume. I think there's an angle for that one here. Overall, my take on the fight, Billy is just not good at all, but has an insane pace. I don't know if do you think he's going to have a physicality advantage here?
When Cub is tired, maybe
late.
Yeah,
because if he doesn't have a physicality advantage, I can't really see why I wouldn't play Cub, who is like a semi-competent grappler for the most part, has decent upside on the feet against the punching bag. Billy also has a path to victory by wrestling and pace and volume through 15 minutes. But I don't know. I'm kind of thinking about a Cub entry here. I think I don't know. I would have lined it maybe a pick'em, potentially Quarantillo slight favorite. But yeah, it feels like Cub early is going to have huge upside, and feels like Quarantillo late is going to have huge upside. So I think you could get away with a play on either of those, maybe a Quarantillo round 2 or 3 potentially. I haven't just quite decided exactly how I'm going to attack this one just yet.
Yeah, Cub will look good in the first round. Like, he'll look absolute money.
I think he might get us like a nice live entry spot. I think what I was thinking was Cub pre, Billy live. I think that's how I want to attack it. But yeah,
I like that. How's your live betting going?
Yeah, it's gone all right. Yeah, it's obviously harder because we're in Australia and you got to call up and stuff. But
how quick are you getting at it?
Getting quicker. The issue is not me. It's the books.
Them.
Yeah, they just the amount that they close lines and open and shut them. It's very frustrating. But I'm happy to take like unders in certain fights where there's like no real path to victory for the other guy. So like where you might miss a couple of cents on the dollar, at least you're still getting the side that you want.
Yeah.
Especially on a play like this where Swanson could just smoke Billy in round 1. Then you might get Billy in the corner at like probably a pick and price.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to take that, I think.
Yeah. I do think it is a good possibility. Like, Cub can get Billy out of there like pretty early.
I think he could. He looked fucking terrible against Zalal.
Yeah, especially if Cub has his hands down and Billy's strikes are so they're pretty shit.
Yeah,
these are the type of strikes that to Cub is going to seem like slow motion. Like, he will just pull back and land that big right hand.
100%. Look at what he did to like Darren Elkins.
Yeah, exactly.
He absolutely dominated Darren Elkins. He was like not the same fighter as Quarantillo, but has like I'd say similar traits. Like wants to wrestle and wear on you and take damage and take over. And Cub absolutely fucking handled him. So I think Quarantillo's got obviously a bit more to give than Elkins. But I think it's I think it'll be a decent fight.
Yeah, I'll enjoy it for however long it lasts.
Yeah, should be good. All right, let's move on to the main event. Show the viewers your shirt.
Yep.
Come on,
There
give
it
us a
is.
look. Nice. So we know who he's going for.
No, I'm wearing the shirt, but I may not be backing him.
Main event of the evening, we've got Colby Covington taking on Joaquin Buckley. Obviously, Covington stepping in here on what is it, like two or 3 weeks' notice?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, which is pretty unexpected for Colby, who's a guy who's generally out for super long periods of time, very inactive,
It's
and
so
then getting
bizarre that he's fighting like.
yeah,
Fight.
he's getting this main event slot against a guy like Covington sort of has the history of like getting these massive name fights and like maybe not deserving him to the full extent.
Yeah,
But now he's
selective.
Yeah, now he's coming in against Joaquin Buckley on short notice. I don't know if that's do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? I can't tell.
On short notice, I don't know.
I feel like it's good because he is too inactive, and like you see real glimpses of brilliance in this guy. Like in the first Kamaru fight, competing that's the best Kamaru we've ever seen, and he competed really, really well throughout the fight. You know, may have got stiffed with some ref objections and stuff like that, but you know, clearly lost the fight at the end. But I thought he competed really well.
Oh, he was amazing in that fight.
And then he comes out, dominates Tyrone Woodley. Second Kamaru fight again, super, super competitive with the wrestler. Hey,
yeah. Once he woke up in that second Kamaru fight,
his striking looked good too. I thought in the second fight, like he was working him in 3, 4, 5.
Yeah,
I thought he had
won more rounds.
Yeah, I thought he won the fight personally, but
yeah,
I think it was a close fight, so I see what happened. Masvidal absolutely dominated him. Had that one sort of little glimpse of where Masvidal clipped him, but other than that, he was completely fine. What was he in that? He was minus 320, and then obviously comes in Leon Edwards fight. Looks like shit for most of it, but still wins 4 and 5 with a broken foot. So I don't know. He's just a weird fighter. Like he has glimpses of brilliance even in his losses. And you don't want to talk about just prices quickly. So prices coming in. Joaquin Buckley's opening at minus 265. Covington coming in at plus 225. I just want to talk about prices previously for Colby. So in the last Leon fight, he was a plus 135 underdog. In the Masvidal fight, minus 320. In the Kamaru second fight, plus 250 underdog. Minus 340 against Woodley. And then in the first Kamaru fight, he was a plus 175 underdog. So to me, off the bat, immediately, to get Colby Covington at plus 225 against arguably one of the worst fighters he's fought in a I mean, not the worst, but I'd say a step down in competition besides physicality and athleticism.
Yeah, I'd say way like the step down in name value.
Yeah, it's definitely name value, but even from Leon, like Leon was the champ, and you know, say what you want, he's got a limited skill set, but I think Leon's a better fighter overall than Buckley. I think that's not a controversial statement. He was the champion of welterweight, beat Kamaru Usman, etc., etc. So initially, just to get Colby at a plus 225 look against a step down in competition feels like a play automatically. But obviously, you've got to break down the fight further. You've got Joaquin Buckley coming in here off the back of that knockout against Thompson, where I had him in that fight. Minus 225 favorite. I think he covered that pretty well. He didn't really look in. I mean, it was competitive in the first two. He ran away with it. I think his ability to be physical and athletic and explode through things, hold his pace a lot better. He's just a dangerous kind of guy. He's got a very awkward footwork orientated style where he explodes into range and wants to hit you with boxing combinations. I think. I think it's a good fight. I'm pretty keen to see how it plays out. I honestly don't have a pretty firm take on it. I think it's fair to say that Colby's probably on the decline of his career, but in saying that, he's still competing. Like he hasn't been in a fight where he hasn't competed well. Like the Leon one looked like it was going that way, and then 4 and 5 he stepped up and you know made it pretty close towards the end. I find it hard to want to get on Buckley at minus 275 in this one personally. I think activity's pretty close in terms of volume. In terms of pure striking, I probably favour Buckley. I think he's got way more power and explosiveness at this point in his career. In terms of wrestling, I think Colby's the better wrestler for sure. Whether he'll look to employ it or not, I don't know. He didn't in the Leon fight, which I still, bamboozles me because in the next fight that Leon has, Bilal comes out and sort of just ragdolls him like everyone kind of thought there was the chance that Colby could.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't like MMA Masters much as a camp. I don't think they're very good. I think Colby was probably a better version of himself when he was at AT&T. But yeah, like I said, I don't have a really strong take on this fight as of right now. It feels insane to kind of get Colby at this price, and I feel inclined to pay him off just that alone. But yeah, what do you have in this fight? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so this is a fight that I am very interested in because Covington is someone that I've followed for years, and Joaquin Buckley, he's one of my favorites at the up and comers at the moment. So I'll start with Kobe. He is someone who I was following since he began the gimmick. And as someone who grew up watching WWE and having the kind of dumb humor he appeals to, he became one of my favorite fighters to follow. But outside of that personality, whether you like him or not, you can't deny how good he is. His game is to drag his opponents to deep waters through suffocating grappling offense where he's just relentless. Whether it's controlling you in the clinch against the fence or on the ground, you can't get him off you. He has constant takedown attempts, mat returns, and he does mix it up too. His striking isn't amazing, but when he is comfortable, he has incredibly high output. He fights out of that southpaw stance, doesn't have much power, and every punch is quite loopy, but he does make it work because of his volume. He also has really well-timed kicks to the body as well. I remember him hurting Kamaru Usman twice through kicks. His head kicks are pretty telegraphed though, but yeah, he has solid wins against Damian Maia, Rafael dos Anjos, Robbie Lawler, and Jorge Masvidal, and Tyron Woodley. But you gotta address the fact that they were favorable matchups. Damian Maia, old, accepts being on bottom, and has pretty bad striking. Rafael dos Anjos, he's someone that gets wrestle fucked by every pretty good wrestler. Robbie Lawler, do you remember that fight?
The Lawler one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just volume galore.
Volume galore. And all Lawler did was just bob and weave.
Yeah, he just showed up sort of thing, just didn't throw anything back.
Yeah. He avoided pretty bad damage, but yeah, he was just bobbing and weaving that fight. Jorge Masvidal, he's someone that is very overrated in his boxing. And Tyron Woodley, the frozen one, he didn't offer much as well, other than maybe explosion in the first round. But yeah, and all these guys were much older than him. But despite this, he did have two amazing fights with Kamaru Usman, where I thought he was winning the first fight until he slipped on a banana peel, his words. And I thought in the second fight, he should have got the win in that fight. Like I said earlier, I think Kobe has won more rounds against Usman. These were all stand-up affairs too, for the most part. Barely any wrestling, especially in the first fight. Second fight, there was more of a wrestling game plan from Kobe. Kobe showed aggressive and high output striking that hurt Usman a few times, but Usman did eventually land the fight-ending shots in the first and dropped Kobe and nearly finished him in the second fight. Unfortunately, Kobe's last fight with Leon was something that I wasn't so thrilled with, especially game plan wise. And it really did show what happens when Kobe's up against a younger fighter with way superior striking, cardio to match, and be able to negate most of his grappling attempts. But in a lot of it was Kobe's game planning. He didn't attempt to do anything until round 4 and 5. As for the feet, Kobe only attempted 126 strikes, which is a far cry from his usual volume. He only landed 44 of those strikes. On top of that, he only landed 2 of 10 takedowns, but Leon was the one with 2 sub attempts, and he got a reversal on one of those takedowns. The most significant thing he did was get a takedown in round 5 and remain dominant on top. And then when the bell rang, he walked off as if he won the fight.
In typical Kobe fashion.
So, yeah. in this main event, he's up against someone who's 6 years younger than him in their physical prime and like holds more power than anyone he's fought in the last like 5 years. Like he may be a step down in competition, but he's got like way more power and way more strength and physicality than a lot of those fighters. So Buckley is someone I look at as having two careers in the UFC, like a career in middleweight and in welterweight. At middleweight, he went 5 wins and 4 losses. He got 4 KOs, one of them being one of the most viral KOs ever, but he also got KO'd 3 times, like to Kevin Holland, Alessio De Chirico, and Chris Curtis. And he lost to Imavov by decision, who used all of his physical advantages to just keep Buckley at bay. In middleweight, Buckley was severely undersized. He always fought hard and had the power to KO these guys, but a lot of the time, all it took was them catching him just once. Since he was always at a height and reach disadvantage, he had to work way harder than his opponent. He fought with a jumpy bob and weave kind of style, having to elevate himself as he needed to, like elevate himself to actually punch his opponents and reach their heads. And he had to cover a lot of distance to get in the pocket. Like as you watch him, you start thinking that he has a lot of wasted movements because he's covering so much space. He's bouncing 2 meters into range and 2 meters back out of range. And he seems to be exerting so much energy, but
seems like a very inefficient style.
Very inefficient style. But the thing is, cardio has never, ever been an issue. He never looked like he was gassing in any of these fights. Like the issue he's faced in middleweight, we're getting caught with fight-ending shots or running out of time after being outclassed by fighters who could use their reach and IQ. His fights with Imavov and Chris Curtis, to me, really highlighted how much he needed to move down to welterweight. And in 2023, he moved down, and he's currently 5 wins, no losses with 3 KOs, and is actually looking like a real contender. It's interesting. He actually fights the exact same way as he did in middleweight. He's constantly moving, covering a lot of space, blitzing in with heavy hooks as he bobs and weaves in and out of the pocket. But then he doesn't face the major height advantage and height and reach disadvantage like he adapted in middleweight for the most part. Like that's why I wasn't worried when he had to face Ruzi Boev or Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. There's also a way minimized threat of being caught and finished by one punch in this division. Like not too many fighters in welterweight have that one punch KO power that middleweights have. Like you have your JDMs, you have Prates and Buckley himself, but like a lot of these guys are wrestlers. Yeah, on top of maintaining his power, he seems quicker than ever, sharper than ever, more explosive, and he's actually fighting a lot smarter. Like his natural athleticism, strength, and explosive power makes him such a hybrid athlete. Like I believe he could easily transition to like different sports and do like pretty decent. In this matchup, we have a fighter in Kobe who has weaponized his cardio and pace through his career and has found success by slow cooking his opponents through 25 minutes. And he has been inactive. He's 36 and he has shown signs of regression, especially in his last fight. And we have a fighter in Joaquin Buckley who has so much power, carries a lot of momentum and confidence. He's in his physical prime and fighting in a division where he no longer is disadvantaged the way he was at middleweight. So as much as I say this will be a neck and neck fight because I love both of these fighters, there's only really 2 things I can give Kobe, his wrestling and his 5-round experience. The thing is, I think Buckley is too strong and has too much raw power for Kobe to get his grapple-heavy game going. Like Buckley has shown great offensive and defensive grappling against way bigger and way stronger opposition. Like against Abdul Razak, like he took him down 4 times. Against Duraev took Buckley down twice, but worked his way up with ease both times. He took Fialio down twice. Ruzi Boyev, he's a good boy. He took him down 4 times, and Wonderboy took him down 4 times. Obviously, you can't even compare Buckley's abilities with Kobe's accolades. But Kobe is 36, only having beaten older and favorable opposition the past 4 or 5 years, and you have Buckley in his physical prime. I don't think Kobe today, and most likely not even Kobe maybe 2 years ago, would be able to manhandle Buckley, like grinding him against the cage, returning him to the mat and controlling him from the top and sapping all of his energy. Like I think Buckley is he's a physical specimen. As for Kobe having the luxury of having gone the 5-round distance 5 times, while Buckley has only gone the 3 full rounds 8 times, winning 6 of them. as I said earlier, cardio has just never been an issue for Buckley. Even at middleweight, I think his conditioning is so good that if he does go the 5 rounds, he can maintain his movement. He won't be as jumpy as he is in a 3 rounder, but he still will keep to that pace. Can Kobe catch Buckley with a fight-ending shot? Probably not. Can Buckley catch Kobe with a fight-ending shot? Definitely. I think Buckley got better striking, more power, way faster. He's not disadvantaged by height and reach like he's used to. Kobe's grappling while in the past has been great. I'm confident Buckley can negate it. So yeah, I know I'm talking like massive on Buckley at the moment, and it seems like I'm completely throwing Kobe like to the side here, but I just think like the timing is great for Buckley in this fight, and I think he will catch him with something within the first like 3 rounds.
Yep, nice. I have to push back a little bit on you with the never had cardio issues. Like, I don't know if you remember the Al Hassan fight. He gassed like horrifically in that fight. I think there's been fights that we've seen Buckley for sure slow down in, and I think it's more so at middleweight, definitely. But I have seen him slow down in fights, and I think fair enough because he has like such an explosive style. I've always had a question of it over 5 rounds. I wonder if he can keep it up for 5 rounds, especially with like what we saw against Wonderboy. I don't know. It is such just an energy heavy style that I do get concerned about it over 5 rounds.
Yeah.
Especially against a guy like Covington, who sort of just like is a volume, just big volume, and never stops really working across 5. But I completely agree with you. If Buckley is exploding into range, I don't think Covington's the guy to sort of take advantage of that and hit him with a big shot. So striking wise, it does feel like all Buckley to me. I do think Covington has a path to victory with, absorbing the damage early, mixing in some wrestling, some clinch early, and then, taking over late. I think there is definitely an angle for that there. But I do agree that Buckley's athleticism, momentum, power on the feet should give him a pretty big advantage. But yeah, I think Colby still has a chance in this one. They are both taking it on short notice. So, yeah, I don't know. It just feels like a weird old fight. I don't know why to me. I kind of think that about most Buckley's fights.
I still don't think until I see them walking out. Like, I'm not gonna think that this fight is a sure thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, I think Kobe has done interviews the past few days. He has not mentioned a word about Joaquin Buckley.
I don't know. I don't think he even knows who he's fighting, to be quite honest. So yeah, it's kind of a weird fight to me. But I get that vibe with a lot of Buckley fights, so I'm not like too shocked.
Yeah.
Hopefully we finish the year on the end of a good fight.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go through quickly. We'll just give our quick picks, and then we'll do a parlay buster at the end, and then we'll get out of here. Knudsen, Rodriguez.
Knudsen.
Yeah.
Pass, but
I'll go her too, but no interest. Davy Grant, Tavares.
Davy Grant.
Yeah, I saw Davy Grant slightly as well. Miranda Maverick, Jamie Lynn Horth.
Maverick.
Yeah, but do not play her price. It's horrific. Miles Johns, Felipe Lima.
Felipe Lima for me.
Yeah, I like Lima as well. Sean Woodson, Fernando Padilla.
I still don't know, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't have a strong read on it.
Woodson. I'll lean Woodson.
I'll say Padilla just for fun. I don't know. Joel Alvarez, Jakar Close.
Alvarez.
Yeah, I think Alvarez probably finishes him. Michael Johnson, Ottman Zaitar.
The judges, because they won't have to judge this fight.
Yeah, true. Under 1.5. Navajo Sterling, Tokos.
George.
George.
Navajo Sterling.
Yeah, I think Navajo Sterling should finish him. Yanez versus Marcos.
Daniel Marcos.
Yeah, slightly Marcos. Petrino, Jacoby.
Jacoby for me.
I wouldn't get to the betting window on either at this point.
Yeah.
I'll say Jacoby wins 12.5 minutes and then gets put out late by Petrino. Manel Cup, Bruno Silva.
Bruno Silva.
I think Manel Cup will win, but I think Silver is a good dog shot. Cub Swanson Quarantillo.
Billy Q. Cub.
I think Cub. Yeah, I'm gonna go Cub. Don't love it though. And then Colby versus Buckley.
I'm high on Joaquin. I love
Yeah.
Kobe, but I'm going with Joaquin Buckley.
Yeah, I think Buckley should win, but I think the price feels wide. But that's it. That's the last card for the year.
Yeah, we have like a 2-3 week break.
Yeah, I think it's a month off, and then we're back into it. But yeah, as always, sports don't really stop for us over at Provide Picks. So if you want NBA, esports, football, MMA, all sorts of stuff, we cover it all. We got a bunch of expert handicappers in there. Head to whop.com/provide picks, and you can sign up for a free package or paid, depends if you want to trial it or not. Head over to my Twitter at Provide Picks, always tweeting on there, lots of dumb shit. And if you want to follow Ryan, it's at Desperate Times with a Z Ryan. I think that's it.
At Desperate Times 1.
Yeah. He's always posting lots of free stuff in his final leans for the card over there. So if you enjoy the live stream and you want to tune in throughout the week in case anything does change, make sure you head over there. But other than that, that's us for the year. I hope everyone has a good Christmas, good New Year. I dare say you and me will probably jump on and do like a wrap up, maybe an award show or something like that. Just something in the time away.
Yeah, could do something next week.
Yeah, 100%. We'll sort something out. We'll post about it on socials. But other than that, hopefully everyone has a really good final card, and we'll see you in the new year. It feels weird to say already.
Yeah, crazy. And we're coming back in 2025 with a bang.
Yeah, we're back, baby. It'll be our biggest year yet. So make sure you stay tuned, subscribe, like, and follow us. And we'll see you in the next one.